Earth had never been called a reborn hero, and whether praised for his talent or enduring the worst of days, nothing ever changed. The day he met the man who would alter his life forever, Earth shed a tear as everyone he had ever known turned their backs on him. How had things come to this? Earth collapsed to the ground as a girl stood above him. They seemed to have just finished a duel, and she had won as someone announced the result. Around them, the crowd erupted in cheers. That girl was Princess Fiancé, daughter of Soldier, one of the 7 heroes. She was a highly skilled swordswoman, undefeated in every duel. Fiancé called Earth naive, saying he hadn't yet mastered his magic sword, but that his skills were improving. Earth accepted his loss, addressing her as Princess. But Fiancé, irritated by the title, reminded him they were both academy classmates and childhood friends. She was frustrated that he had never beaten her, criticizing his mistakes and the defeated look he wore after every loss. Fiancé Depardieu, the royal princess, had always stood at the top, and not once had Earth managed to take that spot from her since they joined the academy together. She continued her rant, until Earth overheard 2 girls behind him praising his abilities, expressing their desire to get to know him better. Fiancé frowned as the girls gushed more and more about him, causing her to rush over and declare they should give up on liking him. Earth trembled in frustration, knowing Fiancé would ruin any chance he had with other girls. Out of nowhere, she asked if his father, the hero, was disappointed in him. Earth clenched his fists, bowing his head in silence. Students flooded the hallways, chatting about their test results or complaining about their exhaustion. Nearby, guards quietly observed, disappointed by the shortcomings of the younger generation, though it didn't matter much. Peace had already been achieved. They walked through the corridor until they spotted Earth training, once again after losing to Fiancé. They remembered how his father, Lord Hero, had earned the title of hero, a man of great talent. But they couldn't help feeling disappointed watching Earth fail against the 7 heroes. The 7 heroes were the brave souls who saved humanity from the great Demon King, and Earth's father had been one of them. Yet, despite being the son of a hero, Earth's abilities still fell short, leaving him forever in second place. Overhearing the guards' conversation, Earth approached them. The soldiers began giving him the same tired lecture. He'd grown used to hearing. They reminded him of his father's great achievements in his youth, and mentioned that, after graduation, Earth would have the chance to train with the Royal Knights. Coincidentally, Earth's father suddenly appeared in the area, leaving him confused since his father was usually too busy with work. His father began boasting about his past accomplishments, even while his son struggled. Finally, Earth interrupted, asking if his father could help him defeat the princess by teaching him swordsmanship from scratch. However, his father replied that he was busy with work, and told him to continue learning at the academy. This didn't sit well with Earth, who knew his father had never helped him overcome the huge expectations placed on him. Despite all his training, he still couldn't beat Fiancé. In the end, Earth exploded in anger, accusing his father of not caring about his efforts and saying that even the smallest praise would have been enough to make him feel better. Earth left his father and everyone around him in silence. He scoffed and began walking away, ignoring his father's calls, never looking back. Earth walked toward his grand mansion, passed through the gate, and turned the corner, where he saw the maid watering the plants. She greeted him with a playful smile, advising him to return to class and teasing him with an unpleasant nickname. This maid was Sadith, who had been adopted by Earth's family when she was orphaned. To him, Sadith felt more like a sister than a servant. Yet Earth always dreamed she might one day become his wife. After explaining why he came home early, Sadith asked if he had lost to the princess again. Earth began explaining that he could drop out of school and still become a royal knight, which he believed was what his father and everyone expected of him. Earth was exhausted from constantly being compared to others, only to end up disappointing them. Sadith, with understanding, offered comforting and encouraging words, saying that people couldn't help but want to witness his growth and hoped he would go far. Earth blushed, knowing Sadith always supported him when he felt down, even though she often had a teasing personality. Suddenly, she said that if he gave it his all, she'd reward him with a special prize, making him jump in surprise. However, Sadith continued, saying the prize was just his favourite childhood dish, omelette rice. She quickly noticed his reaction and laughed, teasing him for clearly thinking of something else. Sadith then swiftly changed the subject, telling him it was time to clean the sealed room for its annual maintenance. They headed to a dungeon-like area near the lake, where weapons hung on the walls and candles lit the way. Sadith handed Earth a set of keys and told him to enjoy the legendary swords, while she went to fetch more cleaning supplies. As she left, Earth stood before the massive door, covered in locks that had been in place since before he was born. Long ago, a great war had shaken the world. On one side, the demon race and their leader, the Demon King. On the other, Earth's father and the 7 heroes who led humanity. In the end, humanity triumphed, and the Demon King was slain by Earth's father's sword, which was sealed behind this very door. As a child, his heart would always race whenever he saw it. But now that time had passed. After unlocking and pushing the heavy door open, Earth stepped inside, and immediately sensed something was wrong. On the high platform, a stranger was standing. Earth froze, unsure of what to do. As the figure turned around, he couldn't tell if they were male, female, or even human, but he knew one thing for sure. They were a demon. The horned figure recognized Earth as the son of one of the heroes, and asked if he could truly see them. Sadith entered the room, curious about what was going on, but Earth immediately warned her about the stranger. However, Sadith saw no one, and dismissed Earth's words, placing her mop down. Before leaving to fetch water, the stranger continued, confirming that Earth was the only one who could see them. Suddenly, Earth lunged, grabbing the broom, and leaping back, using magic to transform it into a weapon, trying to strike. The stranger acknowledged Earth's attack, but remarked that he was far from being a true hero, which only fueled Earth's rage as he attacked again in fury. However, the stranger swiftly dodged, saying it was useless, as they were just a spirit. Since Earth was the first to see them in a long time, they decided to reveal their name. This demon was called Trainar, the very demon king his father had once defeated, a name no one in this world didn't know, a name spoken of only in textbooks. It couldn't be possible that Earth was meeting such a being. What a strange dream, he thought, as he woke up and realized he was in bed, with Sadith standing worriedly beside him. She hugged him in relief, as he asked why he was suddenly back in his room. Sadith explained that she had found him unconscious on the floor, right in front of the high platform, but was glad he was all right. Earth looked up and realized the encounter wasn't a dream. Trainar was hovering above him, looking relaxed. Sadith still didn't understand what Earth was talking about, so he let it go, choosing not to explain further. She quickly left to prepare dinner. Leaving Earth alone with the arrogant demon, Earth believed that Trainar wasn't lying about his identity. He asked why Trainar was in the weapons room. Trainar explained that after being defeated by the hero, his soul had been trapped in the sword for over a decade, and the hero had unknowingly stored the sword away. Earth wondered if he was being haunted by the spirit of the Demon King, but Trainar clarified that, being just a soul, he couldn't interact with the world, and seemed unable to separate from Earth without assistance. Trainar demanded that Earth bring him back into the outside world after being imprisoned for so long. Earth immediately refused, making the demon smirk as he declared that Earth would eventually have to obey and serve him. Earth quickly reminded Trainar that he'd said he couldn't interact with the world, causing the demon to suddenly look sulky. Earth added that, besides, he wasn't allowed to go outside at night anyway. After being pestered by Trainar for a while, Earth finally gave in and agreed to take him for a walk around the city. Earth got dressed and was about to leave his room, but Sadith noticed and asked where he was going. He replied that he was just taking a stroll around town, but Sadith wasn't satisfied with that answer. Suddenly she threw a knife at him, pinning him to the wall, and asked if he had a death wish. Trainar was shocked, wondering if this woman was really just a maid. Sadith said she wanted to take care of Earth today, but seeing him skipping school and still healthy enough to head into town, she decided a punishment was necessary. After a tiresome night, Sadith finally let Earth go and he headed back to the academy. However, Trainar remained by his side, hovering and observing humanity's creations with fascination. Earth asked what Trainar thought of the town so far, and the demon's answer surprised him. Trainar remarked that society seemed to have forgotten the crisis of the past. The state of the people made him want to cover his eyes. Trainar said that if he were still alive, he would destroy everything in the area. These simple words sent a shiver down Earth's spine, but the feeling quickly faded as the demon dismissed his own thoughts, saying it no longer mattered. Trainar admitted he had lost and could do nothing more now. Earth was stunned by this, wondering why the demon in front of him seemed so different from the bloodthirsty king described in the textbooks. The man standing before Earth had a far deeper perspective, quietly watching the city, seemingly carrying a hint of loneliness. Yet Trainar did have one regret. When he fought Hero and his group, Hero channeled all of humanity's strength into the sword and struck him with a single blow, defeating Trainar with overwhelming power, surely killing him. He was angry for being overpowered so easily. After winning countless battles, Earth tried asking about his allies, but Trainar quickly brushed off the question, making Earth think he had touched on a painful memory. As they continued strolling through town, Trainer noticed an advertisement for a series of books he seemed to recognize and demanded Earth buy them for him. If not, Trainer threatened to whisper in his ear all day. Reluctantly, Earth entered the store to buy the book, talking loudly to Trainer as he walked, drawing the attention of everyone around him. At that moment, Trainer told Earth he didn't need to speak so loudly, especially now that they had reached the classroom. Trainer asked Earth about someone in the class, and Earth told him about Fiancée, the daughter of the spear-wielding hero. Trainer was impressed by her quick grasp of knowledge, but especially astonished by the powerful magical aura she had since birth. Earth felt a bit disappointed as Trainer showered Fiancée with praise, until the teacher interrupted him by slamming a book on his head to get his attention, telling him to stop staring at Fiancée. The class erupted in teasing, while Fiancée blushed furiously. As punishment, the teacher asked Earth to name the magical eyes of the world, including the ones Trainer possessed. Earth wasn't confident in answering the question, but Trainer whispered the answer to him. When Earth repeated what Trainer had said, the teacher became angry and told him to stay after class. Earth accused Trainer of lying to him, but the demon replied that the teacher was simply mistaken. Before the bell rang, the teacher's final words were a reminder to Earth that he had to perform at the top level and not fool around in the upcoming match. As Earth left the classroom, he felt the weight of pressure bearing down on him. Trainer inquired about the match the teacher mentioned, and Earth explained that it was the graduation battle, where the top students compete in a tournament to showcase their skills before the king and nobles. Earth was participating due to his academic achievements, but when Trainer asked if he was preparing, Earth simply replied that he was only preparing to embarrass himself. Trainer quickly understood the issue, saying that Earth felt he could never defeat Fiancée, or worse, that he thought he was just a disappointment compared to his father. Trainer knew that Earth wanted to rebel against the world, but it seemed he had accepted his fate. Like a genius trapped in a well after realizing his own weaknesses, Earth had had enough and told the demon to stop provoking him. However, Trainer immediately shot back, saying Earth would never surpass his foolish father, who only succeeded because of miracles. The remark stunned Earth, who reminded Trainer that he was the one who had lost to his father and then complained about it afterward. Earth didn't want to hear another word from the demon's mouth, but Trainer didn't like the tone Earth used with him. The atmosphere around Trainer shifted, and his eyes burned with anger, causing Earth to stammer, terrified as he faced Trainer's wrath. Trainer grabbed Earth's face and shouted that the boy would become the proof of his true power. Trainer intended to use Earth to teach him the power that he, the Demon King, once wielded, and to show the world once again his supreme might. He told Earth that the graduation battle hadn't happened yet, and that he wanted to test him. However, Earth immediately refused. With only 2 months left before the match, he didn't believe anything could change in such a short time. Trainer responded that Earth had the potential to grow, but Earth, disheartened, said that Fiancée would always crush any effort he made, leaving him as nothing but a failure. Trainer then asked what Earth's real goal was, and Earth replied that for now he wanted to become a royal knight. But Trainer quickly questioned whether that was truly Earth's own choice. The question stunned Earth, reminding him that everyone had always wanted him to follow in his father's footsteps. Was he truly being himself? What did he really want? Before Earth could reflect further, Trainer interrupted, declaring that they would turn the upcoming match into Earth's victory in the next 2 months. Earth needed to find something to motivate himself over the next 2 months, and Trainer added that even an impure motive could yield the best results. When they finally returned home, Earth set a ladder down on the grass and asked Trainer what they were going to do. Trainer explained that it was a ladder exercise, meant to improve endurance and agility, called the Magic Step. Suddenly, Trainer dashed forward between the ladder rungs, yelling loudly as he landed dramatically, leaving Earth confused. He thought the demon looked like an insect with the way he demonstrated, which offended Trainer. Despite that, Trainer continued teaching Earth different jump techniques, but the boy couldn't stop mocking him in his thoughts, comparing him to a child. As Earth began picturing kids hopping around in a zigzag pattern, Trainer immediately told him to focus, and threatened him if he didn't do it correctly. Trainer ordered Earth to perform the jumps as instructed, using magic with each movement. As Earth prepared to begin, he felt like his body wasn't moving as he intended. Trainer explained that the ladder exercise didn't just train movement, but also improved stamina, agility, and the use of magic while stepping. Trainer said that Earth would eventually be able to cast spells while moving, but his mistake was focusing too much on the steps. It was normal for the body to lag behind the mind, and if Earth could conquer this, he could synchronize both. A surge of determination filled Earth as he continued the practice. By the end of the day, he was completely exhausted, but also realized that he needed to change, as his physical condition was worse than he thought. Trainer mentioned that after the ladder drills, they'd move on to physical techniques, but Earth asked when they would start focusing on swordsmanship. However, Trainer bluntly said they would never focus on swordsmanship, because in his eyes, Earth lacked talent with the sword. Since meeting Earth's father, Trainer realized that his skills relied heavily on raw magical power, but Earth didn't possess that extraordinary ability. These words crushed Earth, making him feel like all his efforts up to now had been meaningless. But Trainer added that Earth had something his father didn't: flexibility. This was a similarity to one of the other 7 heroes, Earth's mother, the priestess Mamu. Trainer explained that if Earth developed by focusing on his own unique talents, he had the potential to break his own limits. Earth laughed out loud at the thought of surpassing his father. And while it seemed far-fetched, he didn't reject the idea. Feeling energized, he quickly got up and asked Trainer to guide him on the path ahead. Suddenly, Sadith appeared, asking Earth who he was talking to. She noticed the ladder and realized he was using it for training. However, she quickly remembered the reason she came and handed Earth the menu plans for the upcoming month. Trainer whispered to Earth that Sadith had carefully prepared the menu, showing how much she cared about his well-being. Earth felt touched, knowing that Sadith had always been there for him when his parents were absent. It made him realize that his feelings for her went beyond sibling affection. Encouraged by Trainer, Earth decided to confess his emotions. He started by getting Sadith's attention, confidently saying that in 2 months he would win the match, which surprised Sadith. However, as he tried to express what he wanted to say next, he began to stumble, unsure of how to talk about what might come after his victory. Then, in a moment of complete blunder, he blurted out that he wanted her to let him touch her chest. Earth immediately realized his mistake and tried to apologize, but Sadith was far from pleased. However, to his surprise, she agreed, though not very happily. She wanted him to win, so she accepted Earth's awkward request. This left him utterly confused. As she walked away, now, Earth felt more motivated than ever, as if he could conquer anything. But what he didn't know was that in the not-so-distant future, he would become the worst version of himself and lose Sadith. At that moment, Trainer announced that the warm-up was over, and it was time for Earth to fight him directly. In the world, there are 2 standard techniques for physical training. Shadows, where the trainee imagines a potential enemy in front of them and dodges imaginary attacks, and sparring, a simulated battle between 2 individuals. However, since Trainer was a supernatural entity, he combined both techniques and called it phantom sparring. Now, Earth would face the demon in a simulated duel. The thought of this thrilled him. Up until this point, he had only sparred at school with opponents who were either too weak or with the princess, making it hard for him to accurately gauge his abilities. But now, he would have the chance to fight a real demon king. This was sure to be a completely new and exhilarating experience for Earth. King Trainer landed on the grass, saying he wouldn't fly too much during the battle. He told Earth he could use magic if he wished. Earth felt confused, unsure if Trainer could actually strike him directly, considering he was a supernatural entity. The demon laughed at Earth's confusion, then grinned widely, informing him of one thing he could do with his power. Suddenly, Trainer lunged forward, aiming straight for Earth's neck. Or at least, that's what Earth thought. He collapsed to the ground in shock, his trembling hands clutching his neck. Earth was in disbelief, truly thinking for a moment that he had died. Even though there was no pain, the sensation still haunted him. Trainer stood there, amused by the sight, mocking Earth, asking if this was all the son of a hero could endure. Those words filled Earth with rage, and he charged forward, no longer patient, trying to strike Trainer. Trainer wasn't impressed with the attack, but Earth had another plan. Earth aimed to make Trainer focus on his punch while secretly preparing to kick him, but suddenly, Trainer pointed a finger toward Earth's eyes, making the boy stop instantly. Feeling as though the next step would lead to his death, Earth jumped back and raised his hand, releasing a lightning spell, then stomped hard on the ground, causing a small earthquake with his magic. However, Trainer vanished in that moment. The demon floated in the air and softly landed behind Earth, sarcastically praising his smart attacks before switching back to direct strikes. He complimented Earth's use of earth magic, noting that Earth was stronger than lightning. However, Trainer wanted to use this opportunity to teach Earth a lesson, and he charged at him, ready to show his true power. Elsewhere, Fiancé woke up, her mind swirling with thoughts, especially about what had happened with Earth that day. She had just dreamt of nostalgic childhood memories, where little heroes led her into slumber. A knock on the door interrupted Fiancé's thoughts. As a servant entered, saying there was a letter for her. When she saw the symbol on the envelope, she gasped in surprise. The story shifted back to Earth, lying exhausted on the grass, while Traynor informed him that they would spar like this every day, along with ladder drills. Earth was frustrated that he couldn't land a single hit on Traynor, even though the demon was only using basic human physical techniques. In his imagination, Earth had died countless times, with each failure slowly eroding his confidence. He had always prided himself on thinking he could overcome anything, as long as he could defeat others, even though he could never beat Fiancée. Traynor asked if he was feeling desperate, but Earth denied it, saying he had only just realized how truly weak he was until today. Suddenly, a thought popped into Earth's mind, and he asked Traynor how his father had managed to defeat him. Traynor snorted, mocking Earth's ignorance as the boy tried to explain that his father was always busy, and whenever they talked, it turned into lectures about the past. The demon asked Earth if he ever truly listened to those stories. Traynor explained that the path to becoming the hero who defeated the Demon King wasn't an easy one, and that it was a story Earth should learn from. To Earth, his father had always been the source of his insecurities and frustrations, but Traynor wanted him to see his father from a new perspective, that his wisdom could change everything. Hearing this, Earth began to wonder about the pain the previous generation had endured. He told Traynor he wanted to know more about his past, if he was willing to share, and how humanity had defeated such a powerful demon king. The next day, Earth headed to school, weaving through the town's streets. His legs still felt heavy from the previous day's training. Traynor seemed disappointed they couldn't start learning forbidden magic that day, and Earth now understood that there was still a long road of training ahead. As Earth was walking, someone called his name, and he noticed Fiancée standing by a market stall. He quickly greeted her, adjusting his tone and calling her by name, mentioning how odd it was to see her in town, as she usually travelled by carriage with an escort. But today seemed different. Fiancée held a cup in her hand, and Earth, curious, asked her about it. She was about to explain, but then realised the cup was empty. Scrambling for an excuse, Fiancée made up a story, saying she'd heard about a delicious juice from the stall, and the cup was empty because she'd just finished it, not because she had been standing there all morning waiting. She quickly changed the subject to avoid more questions. Fiancée stepped beside Earth and suggested that since they had run into each other, they could walk to school together. However, Traynor could see what was really happening. On the way, Fiancée asked Earth about his plans after graduation. He replied that he didn't have anything special in mind. Fiancée continued to remind Earth that the upcoming matches weren't just simple simulations. Important figures from neighbouring nations would be attending. She also mentioned that she was soon to be announced as the next queen. Then she asked if Earth knew how she felt about that. Earth confirmed that he understood, since, as a princess, Fiancée was expected to one day rule the country. He also admitted that their goals had become different since they were young. His current motivations were certainly different from hers. Fiancée blushed and asked Earth if he really looked at her in class. Earth casually nodded, not thinking much about why she asked. Suddenly, Fiancée declared that she would win the graduation match and announce it to the people. Earth was surprised and lowered his head, remembering that in the past he would have surely wished her luck and encouraged her to do her best. But this time he apologized and told Fiancée that he would be the one to win. The final training session had helped him realize his true potential. He wanted to show his real strength, not just in front of Sadith, but to everyone. He also wanted to uncover the truth about his father's past. To do that, he had to win. When Earth told Fiancée that there was something he couldn't give up, she suddenly asked if it was a confession of love, making Earth blush in embarrassment. Not wanting Fiancée to find out about his agreement with Sadith, he hastily agreed with her question. Fiancée blushed even more, and said they should both fight their hardest in the upcoming match. They smiled at each other, while Traynor watched, knowing full well that they were thinking about different things. Still, he knew the battle between them would be interesting, so he kept quiet. Suddenly, excited cheers erupted as Earth and Fiancée approached the school gates. As Earth gradually regained his confidence and honed his skills, he realized he had forgotten something important, or rather, some important people. Fiancée wasn't the only obstacle he had to face. There were two others Earth was worried about, and they had returned to the school. Many years ago, when Fiancée and Earth were still children, Fiancée was studying at her desk when she heard her name being called from outside the house. The woman beside her told her to focus because it was study time, but the voice called out again, prompting young Fiancée to open the window and leap out from the windowsill. The woman rushed outside to see what was happening, only to find other children and recognize them. One of the boys had used magic to prevent fiancé from getting hurt when she jumped. Those boys were Earth, Fu, and Rival. The woman warned them that the princess was studying and they must not disturb her, or she would report it to their fathers. Earth and Fu quickly grabbed 2 branches and stood in front of fiancé, saying that what they were doing was also considered learning and they would never hand her over. The woman warned Earth that he couldn't become a hero if he acted like that, but Earth insisted she was wrong. He said Fu was the best mage, Rival was the best swordsman, and fiancé was the best spear wielder. Earth once declared he would surpass his father and become the strongest hero in the world. Sadith had walked in and joked that he should defeat her first. That was just a story from Earth's childhood, when he was surrounded by close friends, believing that one day he would have the strength of his father. Back then, he never doubted anything, but now reality hit him like a heavy brick. Trainer asked what was going on, and Earth explained that the 2 who just arrived were also children of the 7 heroes and his childhood friends. Rival Janaine was the son of the swordmaster, and Fumidai was the son of the grey mage. Fiancé explained that they had written letters informing they would return after studying abroad. Trainer was curious about the study abroad program, and Earth explained that it was a tradition at the school, where the top 2 students had the chance to study abroad. Fiancé had declined, allowing Rival and Fu to take the opportunity. Rival and Fu greeted Earth and fiancé. As they approached, Rival teased Earth, asking if he'd gotten any stronger while they were away, making Earth feel insulted. Fiancé asked them about the troubles she'd heard they encountered while studying abroad. Fu calmly explained that they had faced a flock of fire dragons and that both he and Rival fought them in a suppression unit. The 2 proudly showed their medals to the girls around them, and cheers of excitement filled the air. Trainer noticed the difference between Earth and his 2 friends. As the children of the 7 heroes chatted, another student suddenly asked Fu to show the strength he'd learned during his time abroad. Fu walked over to some targets and told the students not to expect too much, then began chanting a spell. As they watched the magic, everyone wondered if it was just a low-level spell and what would happen if Fu used his full strength. After finishing the spell, Fu asked the students if they were disappointed, but they replied that it was amazing. Earth grew angry, feeling that Fu didn't realize his true power. While Rival wondered why everyone was so surprised, the long-haired man told Earth that both he and Fu had returned from their studies with absolute strength, and that Earth would never be able to defeat them. Earth, angry, said that Rival was being too arrogant by merely showing off Fu's magic power. He asked Rival what he had to brag about. Suddenly, Rival's sword, still sheathed, was at Earth's neck, and Rival was behind him before he even realized it. Rival declared that displaying his skills in front of academy-level students was a waste of effort. The long-haired man asked Earth if he knew why both he and Fu had ended their studies abroad early and returned. The reason was that Rival and Fu had declared they would enter the royal tournament and win. They weren't just the children of the 7 heroes, destined to inherit their father's legacies. Their goal was even higher, to surpass their fathers and claim victory for someone special. Earth realized that not only was fiancé competing in the tournament, but she was also eager for the fight. She stepped forward and said she wouldn't give up the victory. Rival stared at her, fully aware of her strength, and declared that this time he wouldn't lose. Suddenly, Rival knelt on one knee and said that if he won the match, he wanted to be a candidate for fiancé's hand in marriage. Everyone, including Earth, was shocked, while the female students at the academy cheered excitedly. Fiancé admitted that she only saw Rival as a friend, but Rival said he already knew that. He also revealed that he knew who fiancé truly had feelings for, but he still wanted a chance to be seen as a man. Earth stood by, unfazed, understanding that the world would not object to this marriage. Deep down, he only wished them luck for the future. Trainer suddenly interrupted the conversation, calling the scene pathetic and telling Earth that not even Rival could defeat him. However, Earth wasn't confident, saying there was no way he could beat Rival and Fu, who had grown so powerful after returning from their studies abroad. The demon laughed, knowing full well that fighting fire dragons, using high-level magic, and simply studying abroad was child's play. Trainer told Earth that the children of the 7 heroes would be shocked to know he could defeat even the Dragon King of the Underworld, a creature only X-level magic could handle. Earth was confused by this new information, as he had never heard of it before. Trainer explained that in just 2 months, with his guidance, Earth would gain more skills than Rival and Fu had learned throughout their time abroad. Trainer wanted Earth to trust him, because now he was the disciple of the great Demon King, who once nearly conquered the world. Suddenly, Earth regained his composure and joined the conversation, catching Rival's attention. He boldly declared that he would be the one to win the upcoming tournament. Rival and everyone around were surprised by this statement, but Earth knew he had no choice but to give his all and prove his abilities. Trainer told Earth that he would guide him, and Earth asked if this was a contract with a demon. Trainer dismissed the idea and told him to announce his goal to everyone. Earth did just that, confidently declaring in front of everyone that there was something he couldn't give up, and he would surpass Rival. Rival understood Earth's challenge, and the two prepared to face each other. However, unexpectedly, the female students began cheering for Earth, leaving him confused as he thought they would mock him. He couldn't read the mood while fiancée knelt on the floor, covering her ears and face, blushing with embarrassment. She misunderstood the situation, thinking both Earth and Rival were confessing their love for her. Fiancé believed that what Earth couldn't give up was her. Fu, standing on the sidelines, didn't know who to support, as both Earth and Rival were his childhood friends. So, he chose to stay neutral in this conflict. Earth, now completely bewildered, looked around and realized the chaos he had unintentionally caused. Rival glared at him with anger and frustration, clearly displeased with Earth's awkwardness and the strange situation they found themselves in. After everything settled down, everyone entered the math class. Trainer stood observing the teacher, mocking the lesson, calling it low-level knowledge for a class meant to train the Empire's elite. Earth thought the demon was simply criticizing the curriculum, but Trainer explained that he found writing out mathematical expressions and solving them unnecessary. Trainer insisted that as long as someone understood the system and how to apply it, they could just substitute numbers and perform what he called automatic calculation. Earth, confused, didn't understand the concept and asked Trainer what it was. The demon replied that it was better to practice than explain. With the intent to help Earth grasp this new magic, Trainer prepared him to take the next steps in learning how to automatically calculate. Trainer instructed Earth to draw a magic sigil on a piece of paper. Earth followed, and then Trainer guided him through a spell he was about to teach. Earth softly recited the incantation, and immediately his hair began to rise, while equations started floating around him. This was a spell Earth quickly mastered, one created by Trainer himself. Earth picked up a quill ready to write the answer, but then realized the answer had appeared on its own. He was puzzled until Trainer explained that the spell would automatically solve any formula the caster referenced, saving time. Trainer called it X-Kale. He continued rambling about his magical inventions, but Earth started focusing on the fact that he could use this magic in the graduation exam and pass it easily. The teacher then asked Earth to come to the board and write the answer to the problem of the day. He got up, walked to the board, looked at it with a blank expression, then used magic to solve the problem, quickly and accurately. As Earth began writing the answer on the board, numbers and equations flowed through his mind and body, filling him with strong confidence. He decisively swung his arm back, feeling like there was nothing he couldn't understand. The teacher looked at the board, silently watching as Earth returned to his seat. But then, the teacher called Earth back, asking him, "Where are the intermediate steps?" Both Earth and Trainer were stunned, not knowing how to respond. The shock made Earth want to shout, while Trainer remained silent, realizing that his cunning teaching method might not fit Earth's world. Suddenly, Earth found himself in a completely different environment. A vast, white, empty space, with nothing in any direction. He asked Trainer in confusion where they were, and the demon replied that they were inside Earth's mindscape. It was a kind of virtual reality illusion, a type of magic Trainer had invented. It forced the user into sleep and allowed the summoner to control the dream at will. From now on, Trainer would use this space to guide Earth more comprehensively. Trainer told Earth that he could make him sleep during classes he found useless, so they could train more in the virtual world. Earth wondered if Trainer was part of the dream, and the demon confirmed that he was real. Because ever since he separated from the sword, his soul had been connected to Earth, so they would share the dream together. Earth sighed, remembering his original plan, that he wanted to use Dreamtime to flirt with Sadith. However, Trainer explained that the reality in the dream couldn't be created without the imagination and knowledge of the original summoner. He emphasized that thoughts like Earth's had no place in his mind. Still, Trainer warned that this magic could be built so well that it would feel indistinguishable from reality. He told a story about a man who became trapped in a dream due to this magic, to the point where he could no longer return to reality. As a result, the man became useless, and his country fell into chaos and was eventually destroyed. This warning made Earth realize that, while dreams could bring power, they could also be a dangerous trap if not handled carefully. Traynor forbade Earth from using this technique alone, and the boy quickly agreed after hearing the demon's frightening story. Additionally, Traynor couldn't do much with his soul form, except for magic that began to emit from his hands, surrounding his body, leaving Earth in awe. Traynor explained that it was just magical energy radiating out and moving as if it had a life of its own. Earth was confused, not understanding this ability, until Traynor started manipulating the energy, creating a swirling vortex. He called this special move the Great Devil Spiral Break, a name that Earth thought was as ridiculous as everything else Traynor had invented. However, Earth seemed to forget that Traynor could read his every thought, and his insult was clearly heard by the demon. Traynor remained silent, head bowed as if hurt, making Earth realize his mistake and hurriedly apologize. But it was too late. In a fit of rage, Traynor hurled a magical attack at Earth, sending him flying to the ground with a scream. Exhausted, Earth thought that if they kept going like this, he'd surely die. Traynor agreed, as the technique he'd just shown could turn anything into minced meat. Suddenly, a table appeared in front of Earth, and Traynor ordered him to sit down. A blackboard appeared right after that. Traynor wanted to ensure they both fully understood each other before continuing the training. He began explaining how the bodies of humans and demons handle magic. Each person has a reservoir of magic within them, where magic is stored and then released. He explained that sometimes this reservoir can have leaks, and the number of leaks greatly affects a person's magical strength. To illustrate, Traynor compared it to a water bag. If the bag has many holes, water will leak out more. Similarly, if someone has fewer holes in their magic reservoir, they can only use high-level magic on a small scale. But if they have more holes, it means they consume magic faster. Traynor explained that this was fine, as long as the person knew how to manage their magic consumption. Earth thought about this, realizing that both Fu and Fiancé had more magical leaks than he did, meaning they had a natural talent for magic. This made Earth realize that innate talent plays a big role in someone's magical power. Traynor drew on the board and told Earth that he only needed to increase the number of magic leaks he had, meaning the number of holes wasn't fixed, but depended on how many closed leaks he could unlock. Earth was stunned, slamming his hand on the table and asking the demon how to open those leaks. With a serious expression, Traynor explained that the way to unlock magic leaks was acupuncture. Now, Earth saw an acupuncture set in front of him, and he asked Traynor if he really had to use it on himself. Traynor confirmed, saying there was no problem, as he had practiced using the needles on other things in his free time. Moreover, Traynor could use his sixth sense to feel the location of the hidden magic leaks and help Earth find them. And Traynor replied that it might, especially when the needle touches the spot between the nail and the skin. Immediately, Earth interrupted and quickly prepared to insert the needle, not wanting to hear any more frightening details. Traynor wanted Earth to open at least one magic leak that day. Earth hesitated, knowing he was facing a demon who could use terrifying levels of magic. He slowly brought the needle closer to his wrist, nervous about what would happen once it pierced. Earth took a deep breath, trying not to let his hand shake as he aimed the needle at a specific point on his wrist. Once he found the right spot, he acted without hesitation. However, the sensation Earth experienced was completely different from what he expected. His breathing grew heavy, and he began to sweat, feeling an intense sensation invade his arm, like needles piercing all over it. It felt as though a hot blade was slicing through his body. Traynor told him that he wouldn't call this pain, but the path to gaining magical power wasn't easy either. Tears streamed down Earth's face, and just at that moment, Sadith walked into the room, seeing him in such agony. Then, Earth slowly woke up in his bedroom, with Traynor floating above him. He asked what happened, and Traynor explained that he couldn't endure the pain of opening the magic leak, and had passed out. Sadith was the one who found him unconscious on the floor. Earth turned his head and saw Sadith sitting on a chair by his bed, sleeping peacefully. He remembered how well she had taken care of him all this time, and thought about how worried she must have been for him. However, Earth was quickly distracted by the soft sounds Sadith made while she slept. Earth quickly turned away with a flushed face, not wanting to do anything improper after Sadith had cared for him so much. However, he couldn't control himself, when tempted, to sneak a peek under her skirt. At that moment, Sadith suddenly spoke, knowing exactly what he was thinking, as she had caught him in the act. Earth jolted upright, realizing Sadith had been awake the entire time. She smiled, teasing him for trying to peek while she had been taking care of him non-stop. But the situation didn't end there. Sadith sat down on the bed, moved closer to Earth, and placed her hands on his face, looking straight into his eyes, fully aware of what he wanted to do and see. However, the moment was interrupted when Earth's parents burst into the room to check if he was all right. His mother was about to use a healing spell on him, until she realized what was happening between Earth and Sadith, leaving her bewildered by the scene. Sadith giggled and teased Earth, calling him shameful while he began shouting in embarrassment. His father scolded him, asking what he had made Sadith do while they were away. Earth's mother shook Sadith vigorously, worriedly asking if what she saw was true and suggesting that she could find someone more deserving than Earth. Sadith simply replied that she was just teasing Earth, leaving him stunned, feeling as though everything had been a joke. Meanwhile, Trainer observed the situation and took note of the two who had entered the room. Earth's father, Hero, and his mother, Warrior Mamu, one of the 7 heroes. The demon remarked that Mamu hadn't changed at all since the last time he saw her, but Earth thought his mother looked perfectly her age. Suddenly, Mamu slapped Earth, declaring that she knew he had just thought something disrespectful about her. Earth quickly asked his parents why they weren't at work, but his mother explained that they had rushed home as soon as they heard their son couldn't get up. Hero mentioned he was starting to feel hungry after everything that had just happened, prompting Sadith to offer to prepare dinner for the family. Mamu immediately jumped at the idea, excitedly running to the door, while Sadith quickly followed to help her prepare, since it had been years since they last cooked together. Now only Hero and Earth were left standing in silence. Neither knew what to say, and Earth felt the awkwardness of standing next to his father without anyone speaking. He didn't know how to start a normal conversation, especially after his parents had just witnessed such an embarrassing scene. Trainer reminded Earth that he had something he wanted to ask his father. Earth suddenly remembered and caught his father's attention, finally breaking the silence. He looked away, but still asked Hero why he had become a royal knight. Hero was surprised to hear Earth ask that out of nowhere, and Earth explained that he felt it was time for him to decide his future path. Hero looked up at the ceiling, pondering for a moment before beginning his story. He said that at first, he just wanted to protect his friends and family, until his mother and his hometown village were nearly destroyed by monsters. The livestock in the fields were wiped out, and neighbors and their families were almost eaten alive. Hero's family was also in danger, but luckily, someone special appeared. That person easily defeated the monsters and left without saying a word. To Hero, that person looked so cool as they walked away, and it was that person who made Hero decide to become an ally of justice. Hero admitted that his reason might seem too simple, or just a childish dream, but the story was interrupted when Sadith and Mamu quietly entered the room, causing the conversation to pause. Earth began to feel a bit of respect for his father. Despite how simple and naive his dream was, he had still persisted in pursuing it and protecting peace in the world. As the family sat down for dinner, chatting happily, Earth drifted into thought. He had found his own goal, and finally, he spoke up, declaring that he would do his best to win the graduation match. The whole family fell silent, before his mother burst into laughter. Both his father and mother said they would do everything they could to support him. However, this wasn't the reaction Earth had expected. His mother continued, explaining that his father was happy to see Earth's fighting spirit, and that he shouldn't feel bad if he lost, because they'd be proud knowing he tried. Earth didn't know how to respond, feeling as though his parents were saying he would definitely lose. He felt like they should understand all the effort he had put in. But then Earth recalled his defeat against Fiancé and realized his parents just thought he was still upset about that loss, and they didn't truly believe he had a clear goal like he had just said. Earth no longer felt like eating, something that didn't escape Sadith's notice. He stood up, told everyone he wasn't feeling well, thanked them for the meal, and quickly left the table. He walked down the hallway, which was gradually growing darker, while Trainer watched and asked if he was okay. Suddenly, Earth turned and demanded that the demon make him stronger. No matter what it took or what kind of training he had to endure, he wanted to prove to everyone that he could win. Trainer sensed Earth's determination, but reminded him that today and tomorrow were holidays. This confused Earth, until Trainer explained that overtraining would backfire, as the burden of opening a magic leak was immense. Tomorrow was also the day when something special would arrive at the bookstore. Earth remembered the book Trainer had begged him to buy. Trainer said he would spend the entire next day reading the book, while Earth would rest. After that, they would resume training, with only 50 days left until the graduation match. In the meantime, they prepared themselves for the big challenge ahead. Sadith had lost her family, and that day was the worst of her life. Even though Mamu had saved her since then, she hadn't known how to feel, trapped in an empty, lost state. Sadith was grateful to have met Earth. At first, she was just a servant to his family, until Earth's parents suggested she try taking care of him. When she held Earth's hand, Sadith felt like her life had changed. Meanwhile, Earth and Trainar arrived at the bookstore, and the demon was incredibly excited to get his hands on the next installment of a novel series he loved. In fact, this wasn't the first book Earth had bought for Trainar since they met. Earth had purchased many sequels of books published after Trainar's death. Earth didn't think he'd need to rent a cart to carry all the books back, but Trainar's enthusiasm made it impossible to refuse. With childlike, sparkling eyes, Trainar told Earth they had to start reading immediately. They sat down on a park bench nearby, and Earth began pulling books out of the cart, ready for the reading session that the demon had been eagerly awaiting for so long. Trainar was mentally prepared to devour every book thoroughly, prompting Earth to ask if the demon was really against the culture of the race that killed him. Trainar countered, saying that culture had nothing to do with race, and that the real issue was the development gap between humans and demons. He argued that embracing influential technology was the key to growth. The demon commanded Earth to turn the pages for him and share his thoughts on each book. Time passed as Earth read the first page, while Trainar sat behind him, looking over his shoulder with a bored expression. Immediately, Trainar grew irritated, asking Earth why he was taking so long to read the page. Earth was shocked to learn that Trainar had finished the page in just 30 seconds, and the demon said he had read it 5 times in the time it took Earth to read it once. Earth asked if Trainar wanted him to turn the pages at his speed and that he didn't need to finish the book. But Trainar disagreed. He said Earth's task was to discuss the book's contents with him after they both finished reading. Earth felt this was too much work, but Trainar insisted, saying he would teach him how to speed read so he could keep up with the demon's pace. Trainar explained that to do this, Earth needed to develop a skill called sharp vision. Earth was confused about what that meant, until Trainar clarified, saying sharp vision was divided into 2 types: dynamic visual acuity and peripheral vision. Dynamic vision is the ability to track moving objects with the eyes, determined by the strength of the eye muscles and their movement speed. Earth asked if all of this was just for speed reading and what the purpose of developing this skill was. Trainar repeated that this ability wouldn't just help Earth read faster, but could also be applied in combat, allowing someone to dodge countless attacks, making it very useful on the battlefield. He then ordered Earth to look at the couple sitting on the other side of the park, to practice peripheral vision. As Earth tried to focus his gaze, Trainar continued instructing him on how to effectively train his eyesight. Trainar began asking Earth various questions about what was happening around the couple in the park, but Earth couldn't answer a single one, which Trainar had expected. He explained that peripheral vision is the ability to notice everything happening outside your direct line of sight. If Earth focused too much on one spot, his field of vision would narrow, and the rest would be ignored. Trainar went on to say that if Earth could focus on his opponent while still tracking their initial movements, he'd be able to gain control and take the advantage. This meant that Earth could train his vision and gain new skills he hadn't had before. Trainar called this skill Canon Nikon. It was at that moment that Earth realized, even though Trainar's training had seemed ridiculous at first, when combined with previous exercises, he had clear evidence that things were starting to work. What the demon said made perfect sense. Earth apologized for mocking him before and asked Trainar what his next step should be. Trainar huffed proudly and said the goal for today was to finish the entire novel he held in his hand before the day ended. This left Earth shocked, and he insisted it was impossible, but Trainar wouldn't accept any answer other than, "Yes, sir." Meanwhile, Sadith recalled her childhood, a time when she didn't feel she could trust anything in her life, especially while still dealing with family issues. Back then, she often had to hide things from her mother, treating it like a game. Her mother would go around town, calling her daughter's name, wondering where her mischievous child was hiding, until she found her and chased after her with worry and frustration. Though Sadith couldn't remember many details, she still remembered living in a peaceful city with her mother and father, and as a child, she always thought she was happy. But that little girl didn't know what was truly happening behind the scenes of the city. At the Shisanotami underground facility, where blood stained the brick walls, Trainer was seen reading papers a scientist had just brought to him, finally learning about the ancient magic hidden in the city and the forbidden arts that could destroy the entire continent. The demon called humans overly ambitious and tossed the papers into the air, saying they didn't understand the danger of these arts. The scientist interrupted the Demon King, telling him to shut up because those arts were humanity's last hope in defeating the demon army. The man grabbed Trainer by the hair, accusing him of lying. In fact, he intended to use these forbidden arts to destroy the demon army by selling them to the Empire and turning them into weapons of invasion. The cloaked man continued showing Trainer recordings of secret meetings, but the Demon King showed no interest in these arts. Normally, he would keep them as a reserve for his own army, but the arts the scientists possessed were too powerful and needed to be destroyed, along with anyone who had read them. Trainer raised his hand, absorbing magic into it, summoning the Devil Spiral spell, and obliterated a large part of the city as a warning to humanity. Meanwhile, Sadith was still being chased by her mother until the magic struck, making her turn back to witness the horrifying scene. Sadith jolted awake from the nightmare, gasping for breath after reliving her traumatic memories in just a few minutes. She gripped the broom tightly, trying to calm herself. Even though many years had passed, just a moment of distraction was enough to remind her of that cursed nightmare, a day when she felt as if she was going to vomit from fear. Sadith put the broom down and walked with difficulty to another part of the house. She opened a door, leading to a room kept secret from the entire family. Inside, framed pictures of Earth were hung along the walls, capturing each year of his life. Sadith chuckled softly, her mind filled with thoughts of Earth, memories and emotions rising powerfully. The images of Earth were enough to soften a hardened heart. Sadith was now a servant for the Reagan family, after her hometown was destroyed by the Demon King's army. Mamu had saved her in the moment she was about to be killed. Originally, Sadith was meant to be sent to a refugee camp, but Mamu insisted that she would take care of and raise her. Sadith saw Mamu as an older sister, and she cherished her deeply. She felt a bit sad when Mamu married Hiro, but even after that, Hiro welcomed Sadith as a foster daughter. Sometime later, Sadith's life changed. When Hiro and Mamu had a child, they gave her the opportunity to hold the baby. And that baby was Earth, her adorable little brother, even if not by blood. As Sadith held the child close in her arms, she felt a deep bond with the tiny boy. Sadith reflected on the new life she had gained, a life that opened up to her after losing her family. It was something she always wished to hold on to forever. She gazed at the small ribbon and the intricately crafted wooden box from the shop, which she had received from Earth when she graduated. Back then, the little boy had given her flowers, with his face bright red, shyly asking if she would leave the family after graduation. When Sadith saw the worry on Earth's face, she found it to be an adorable and precious moment. She wanted to tease him, even though she knew it wasn't right, just to make him flustered, enough to reveal the charming side of him that she found so special. However, she recalled how Earth had always been close to Fiancé since they were little. As she closed the box, Sadith knew that Earth was seen as a rival to Princess Fiancé, and everyone around them was aware of it. If things went smoothly, the children of the 7 heroes would marry each other, something Sadith did not want to happen. The thought made her sad, much like when Mamu married Hiro, a feeling she had experienced before. Sadith, like everyone else in society, had to send Earth off each day. As she watered the flowers in the garden, she thought about how Earth always defied societal expectations. She quietly wished he would look at her with that familiar gaze just one more time. Sadith sighed, knowing she would never be able to express these feelings to Earth. By chance, Earth walked through the gate and greeted her. She returned the greeting and started a conversation about the books he had bought. Sadith noticed the exhaustion and dark circles under Earth's eyes, which made her worry that something had happened during his shopping trip. Suddenly, a strong gust of wind swept through the area, blowing the scarf off the table. Sadith's maid dress billowed up, and she realized the situation would be very awkward for Earth. He suddenly rushed forward, surprising her, and with quick reflexes, he grabbed the scarf before it flew too far. Sadith's face turned bright red, caught off guard by Earth's action. She wasn't just surprised by how close he got, but also by the sharpness and agility he had just shown. Earth handed the scarf back to Sadith calmly, and she thanked him before he started to walk away, saying he'd read until dinner, and asking her to call him when the meal was ready. Sadith watched him, confused, wondering why Earth wasn't acting like he used to. He had politely grabbed the scarf instead of sneaking a peek at her like before. She thought maybe something was changing inside Earth that she hadn't noticed, but that was only part of the truth. In reality, he had used his peripheral vision to sneak a glance at Sadith's dress while seeming to focus on the scarf. Earth exhaled with confidence, proud of the usefulness of his new skill. However, Trainer reminded him that this power shouldn't be abused in that way, though the demon was still impressed by Earth's quick learning. Earth wasn't the slow learner many thought him to be, and this took Trainer by surprise. He could quickly learn the technique the demon had in mind. The Great Demon Evolution Breakthrough, meant to increase his chances of winning the upcoming battle. That match was only 49 days away, and those days would pass quickly. He looked up at the night sky, the bright moon shining down on the ground. Earth glanced at his hands, feeling the flow of magic coursing through his body. Trainer stood behind him, watching, and told him that he could now control his magic power steadily. The energy flowed through Earth's teenage body with ease, and he knew that the times he had vomited from opening the magic leaks had finally paid off. Although it took some time to fully realize the magic, it was now truly present. Trainer asked how Earth felt using the sample technique, and he replied that it was amazing. What he saw and heard felt natural, and he was surprised by the clarity of everything. It was time. One last time, for the two of them to face off. This would be the final training session. Between Earth and Trainer, both leapt from their positions and charged at each other. The phantom sparring felt like fighting an intangible spirit. Even if you attacked, no real damage could be done. Earth didn't feel like he was truly hitting anything. But with Trainer possessing the highest level of magical vision, and Earth having honed his own eyesight, it became easier to anticipate where the next attack would land. If Earth was still the boy he was 2 months ago, he would have been utterly defeated. But now he no longer feared the prospect of death. Earth spotted an opening in Trainer's defense. He rushed in, preparing to throw a punch at the demon's face, but his confidence was quickly crushed. Trainer had already countered with a powerful uppercut, sending Earth crashing to the ground. Sitting on the grass, Earth looked up at the sky in stunned frustration. He still hadn't been able to land a hit, and once again he replayed the image of his defeat in his mind, beginning to believe that hitting Trainer might be impossible. Trainer, however, praised Earth for his impressive progress, admitting that Earth almost caught him off guard with the attack, even though it didn't cause any significant damage. Earth demanded another match, making Trainer laugh at his eagerness. The next day, Earth woke up and unexpectedly asked the demon why he wanted to destroy humanity. It wasn't the first time Earth had asked this question, but this time Trainer sensed something different in the way Earth suddenly brought it up. He had been thinking about it for a while, and now felt it was time for a clear answer. Trainer turned away with a sorrowful expression, believing his reasons were something humans could never fully understand. Hundreds, perhaps thousands of years ago, in a time so distant that Trainer had almost forgotten, deep underground where sunlight never reached, a great war of chaos took place. Violence was the only ruler of that land, which was Trainer's homeland. When he was young, Trainer had an epiphany and harbored a dream. He wished to leave the demon realm and expand his world, a world with vast oceans, dense forests, warm sunlight, and diverse cultures and technologies. These were all things Trainer longed to witness. However, achieving that dream was far from easy. Every demon and monster wanted to escape, but humanity didn't want that. Each time monsters tried to emerge, humans sought to destroy them. The divide between the races grew deeper, and people's minds became twisted with hatred. Hundreds, perhaps thousands of years passed, and Trainer's purpose changed. He was no longer the being he once was. Before he realized it, he had become the terrifying demon king that everyone feared. But that was just a story of the past. Trainer sighed, wondering what had happened to the demon world after his death. Earth asked Trainer if humans had also done cruel things to other demons, and Trainer confirmed it. When war broke out, there were raids and acts of revenge. Both humans and demons committed immoral deeds. Even Trainer had done such things, and Earth quietly listened to the story. Earth recalled the tales he had heard about the brutality of the Demon King, but now he realized that Trainer had also been a victim of that very cruelty. Earth admitted that he wanted to visit the Demon Kingdom someday. Surprising Trainer. Earth smiled and said he wanted to repay Trainer for becoming his disciple. He also wanted to explore different lands. Trainer asked if he was sure about this, and Earth confirmed that he would do it. Once he became a royal knight, just like his father. Earth went on to explain that he realized he didn't need to follow his father's path. Trainer's idea of exploring the world sounded exciting, and Earth began to develop a similar desire. He didn't want to stay in his homeland forever. He wanted to conquer the world and grow stronger each day. Earth wanted to become a man who could go anywhere. And then, the big day arrived. Carriages lined the streets as people flocked to the grand arena, eagerly awaiting the match about to take place. Traynor was surprised to see a larger crowd than he expected, considering this was just a match between children. Earth explained that this year was special because it featured the children of the 7 heroes, and every year many influential figures came to watch the matches. For that reason, Traynor believed this was the perfect opportunity for Earth. Earth wrapped his hands with bandages and stood up, ready for the challenges ahead. An announcer stepped into the center of the arena, drawing everyone's attention. He explained that today marked the start of the Royal Knights Academy graduation tournament and thanked the crowd for their enthusiastic support. Earth, Rival, and her fiancé stood ready, lined up with the other graduates participating. The crowd cheered for everyone, except Earth. Earth's parents stood proudly, watching as the match was about to begin. Sadith was also in the crowd, calling Earth's name. The announcer explained to the students that each match would be a knockout-style battle. He walked around with a box for the contestants to draw random opponents. The first to draw would be Earth's opponent. When his name was called, the girls in the crowd cheered even louder, praising him for his exceptional talent and believing he was sure to be the winner. Earth scoffed, knowing they hadn't even passed the drawing phase yet. His rival reached into the box, picking a ball and being selected for the first round, which sent the crowd into an even bigger frenzy. Next in line was Earth. People around him began whispering. Even the crowd recognized him as the son of a hero, labeling him the infamous second-generation failure. They speculated whether Earth might be the dark horse of the tournament. Earth didn't respond or react to the insults. The coach asked if he was planning something. He was confused, but the demon beside him quickly brushed it off, saying that things were about to get interesting. Earth finally extended his hand and smirked, confusing the announcer. He grabbed the box and tossed it into the air, his grin leaving everyone in shock, as the balls scattered all around. Earth had activated his sharp vision along with Canon Nikon to read all the numbers on the balls. Suddenly, he swung his hand and grabbed a specific ball. That ball matched the number of his rival, silencing all the contestants and the audience. Immediately, the crowd erupted into chaos, demanding to know what he thought he was doing and if he understood his place. They called him rude, just like his father, who held his head in frustration and anger, calling his son a fool. No one could believe what had just happened. Earth seemed to be intentionally ruining a historic match. Rival tried to step in and speak. Earth asked him why he was doing that, leaving Rival confused and angry. He started to think that Earth might have deliberately chosen that number. Reluctantly, Rival accepted the thought and declared to Earth and the crowd that he officially accepted the challenge, considering it a declaration of war. The other contestants stood stunned, watching the scene unfold, wondering what Earth's challenge really meant, especially since this was a clash between the children of the 7 heroes. The announcer scrambled to collect the ballots, shouting at the contestants that what they were doing was not allowed, urging everyone to stay calm. However, suddenly someone yelled for silence, drawing the attention of everyone. That person was Emperor Soldier, standing tall on high ground, his cloak and hair billowing in the wind. Soldier was fiancé's father, and his face brought back memories for Traynor. He was one of the 7 heroes, the Magic Lance Knight. Emperor Soldier spoke, saying Earth's actions had violated the rules. He asked Rival if he would accept the boy's challenge. Immediately, Rival knelt before Soldier, declaring that he would accept the challenge and was determined to win the Royal Championship, letting no opponent defeat him. Earth smirked arrogantly as Soldier announced that there was no need to draw lots to decide the order, hinting that Earth would face Rival in the match. Mamu and Hero stood behind the Emperor, telling him it wasn't necessary, and that they would scold their foolish son if needed. However, Soldier reassured them that everything would be fine, adding that it would be rude to refuse a child's challenge. The Emperor sensed the fighting spirit of the 2 boys and declared to the crowd that he would allow the duel to take place. He said the battle between Earth and Rival would not just be a match between graduates, but a formal fight between warriors. The 2 boys stood facing each other, one filled with confidence, the other with frustration. The first match would be Rival Janin versus Earth Regan, as expected for the son of a hero, a title that Earth deeply despised. No matter how hard he tried, he was always compared to his father, and his efforts were overlooked. Earth was always held to high expectations, even though he never asked for it. He never wanted to disappoint anyone. But this time, things would change. In the match against Rival, he would show off his new skills and claim victory in front of everyone. Earth's parents watched him with worry, unable to believe what was happening. The announcer declared that the first round of the Royal Knights Academy graduation tournament would begin between Rival and Earth. Trainar asked him if he would use his usual techniques, but Earth had other plans. He wanted to test his strength after all the grueling training. Agility, taijutsu, and sharp vision, all the things Earth wanted to rely on to see how far he could go with pure martial arts. Earth glanced back at Sadith, hoping she would witness him emerge victorious as the result of all the training he had endured. Suddenly, Sadith shouted, telling him to wait and asking why he didn't bring his sword. Earth and the coach exchanged glances, realizing this probably didn't make a good impression, especially since he was known for always using a sword. Fiancé stood up, beginning to scold him, while the crowd around them started murmuring, slowly losing faith in Earth's chances of winning. Earth's father yelled for him to quickly go home and grab his sword, but the boy simply replied, "My fist's on my sword." And the match began. Rival drew his sword, feeling insulted by Earth's attitude, and charged at him in a fit of rage. The girls in the crowd cheered for Rival, while Fiancé nervously screamed for Earth, until everyone realized that he wasn't hurt. Rival, with his long hair, turned around, sneering, then rushed at Earth once again, using the royal swordsmanship technique, Art of the Graceful Tempest, on him. The knights watching from afar were impressed by the speed of the move, until they were stunned to see that the blade never touched Earth. The boy kept a bored expression as he effortlessly dodged every strike, thanks to his sharp vision and predictive abilities, allowing him to react instantly. This was truly the result of all the grueling training Earth had gone through up until now. Earth pulled his fist back, using the spiral punch technique from his coach, the great demon trainer, and successfully landed a hit on Rival. The girls in the crowd screamed in confusion, while Earth hoped that people would recognize his skill rather than constantly comparing him to his father. However, the crowd continued to credit his talent, or claim it came from secret training with his father, causing Earth's anger to rise as his true strength was once again being dismissed. But Trainer tried to calm Earth, telling him he still had a chance. Rival recovered from the punch, glaring at Earth in fury, demanding to know where he had gotten that power. The long-haired man wondered why Earth had become so strong, and if his parents had taught him that strength. Earth explained that it was all thanks to footwork, sparring, and a little bit of reading. Rival didn't believe that was all, and Earth continued, explaining what had led him to this moment, how he had once felt frustrated when he arrived at the academy, lacking the exceptional skills of Rival, Fu, and Fiancé, until someone came into his life and told him he didn't have his father's talent, but instead should rely on his own strength. Earth admitted he was still in the process of training, but he knew he was walking his own path. Rival looked at him in astonishment before seeing Earth smirk, feeling insulted, because all his life he had always seen himself as the one Earth should admire. Earth stood his ground, causing Rival to draw his sword once again, preparing for the next attack, this time with the intent to give it his all. Before Earth could react, his body was attacked from all sides with Rival's sword slashing relentlessly. Trainer gazed out at the sea, realizing that there are moments when a person can reach their full potential, and this was one of those moments. At this point, Earth couldn't defeat Rival, at least not in the previous moment. But then, a beam of light shone down on the battlefield, and Earth unlocked a new power, the one his coach Trainer had taught him. The Great Demon's Super Evolution Breakthrough. With this ability, Earth could prove himself. For the first time, the Demon King cheered for him, calling him by name. Earth rushed forward, landing blow after blow on Rival, determined to repay everything Trainer had done for him. With one final strike, Rival was sent flying toward the wall, bloodied and seemingly unconscious. The entire crowd watched in stunned silence. The announcer prepared to declare the winner of the first match when Rival's hand twitched. The audience around the arena erupted in cheers of surprise. Earth struggled to catch his breath, looking around at the crowd, seeing the bright faces of his classmates and those close to him. Earth's name was about to be announced as the winner, until Rival unexpectedly unleashed another sword technique, rushing toward him at a speed faster than anyone could react. Fiancé, Fu, and Sadith all looked on with worry, as the long-haired man drew closer and closer to Earth's face. In that moment, Earth suddenly recalled something from his training. He had once asked Trainer if he could learn the Demon Spiral move that the Demon King used when they first met. Traynor had explained that it was a technique that consumed a vast amount of magic and was difficult to control, meaning it would take a long time to master. However, Earth felt this was the perfect moment to try the move. He didn't want to lose to rival. Focusing all his power into his hand, Earth aimed at the sky and unleashed the attack, the Great Demon Earth Spiral. The announcer and Traynor were both stunned by the sight, but Sadith watched in horror, her face pale. Earth's eyes were filled with determination, believing this was his chance to win, until he was suddenly struck in the face by someone else, not rival. Earth spun through the air and crashed to the ground, looking up to see both of his parents standing before him, their faces filled with disappointment and anger. The audience around them was confused, not understanding why 2 of the 7 heroes had suddenly appeared on the battlefield. Earth stood up in bewilderment, until his father declared that he would have to forfeit. This left Earth both confused and furious. He charged forward, shouting at his father, demanding to know why he was doing this. Suddenly Earth heard a scream from afar. In the crowd, Sadith was gasping for air, tears streaming down her face as she relived a painful memory. In a panic, Sadith recalled the moment she had witnessed that same technique used in her homeland, where it had killed hundreds of people. She cried out in fear, not understanding why Earth was using the Demon King's power. People around began to murmur, questioning what was happening. Meanwhile, Traynor realized that Sadith might be one of the survivors of the Shisunotami disaster. Mamu approached Sadith to comfort the crying girl, but it seemed to do little good. Earth stood frozen, watching the scene unfold, sweat beading on his forehead, unsure of what to do next. Hiro explained to the boy that the attack he used was the same power the Demon King had unleashed to destroy Sadith's homeland. Earth's father pulled him aside, demanding he explain how he learned that technique. But Earth's body began to tremble as he tried to explain that he just wanted to show his father how strong he had become after all his training efforts. Hiro slapped him, glaring at him with deep disappointment. He asked Earth if he was willing to use dirty tricks just to win. The crowd began staring and murmuring about Earth, their words filled with disgust, accusing him of cheating, lacking honor, and saying he should be expelled. Earth's mind was in turmoil, only able to think that everyone was wrong. Suddenly, Traynor interrupted Earth's thoughts and urged him to tell his father about the Demon King's existence, to justify himself in front of the angry crowd. Earth wanted Traynor to stop with his advice, because he had grown stronger thanks to the Demon King's lessons. In a swift motion, Earth broke free from his father's grip and turned to Traynor with a smile, asking if there was anything wrong with him becoming the Demon King's disciple. Earth didn't want to be rejected by the world. He shouted with all his might to grab the attention of everyone in the stands. Earth told them all that he had trained for a long time, endured immense pain and hardship, and was finally pulled out of a miserable life after his teacher showed him a new path. Everyone stared at him in shock and disgust, while Hiro told him to stop. At that moment, Earth punched his father in the face, telling him he had endured too much pain from being compared to him every day, yet had never received any support from him. With tears in his eyes, Earth began to walk away, admitting that he no longer wanted to be Hiro's son. He didn't look back no matter who called his name. He heard Fiancé and Fu approaching, wondering if they were coming to scold him, but he didn't care. Instead, Earth unleashed another spiral attack into the ground. The two shielded their eyes from the explosion, and when they opened them, Earth had already vanished. His eyes, still full of tears, he dug deep into the ground in despair, replaying all the memories of his childhood friends and family. When he saw Sadith's horrified face, Earth regretted everything he had done. Finally, he surfaced on the other side, outside the city, knowing this was truly the worst day of his life. The night sky was filled with thousands of stars, the moonlight shining down on the boy who was crying. Traynor stood watching Earth lying on the ground, knowing that he could barely stand after using so much magic, power, and energy in such a short time. Finally, the boy spoke, admitting that during the fight, a part of him had hoped everyone would stop comparing him to his father, and that he would no longer be labeled as the son of a hero. Earth wished people would know him as Earth Regan, but that dream still seemed out of reach. People still didn't see Earth as an individual with his own strength. The Demon King was silent for a moment, then stood up, and said that there was only one way for Earth to make his wish come true, and that was to surpass his father's achievements. Hiro was revered only because he defeated the Demon King, who once ruled the world. And Traynor knew that if Earth completed this mission, people would have to acknowledge his power, whether they wanted to or not. The boy stared in disbelief, unable to fathom surpassing his father, but even the Demon King didn't know how that could be done. However, Trainer reminded him that, regardless of what's considered an achievement, it doesn't have to be limited to the Empire, where Earth was born. He advised him to aim for the whole world and make his name known. Still, Earth had his doubts, until he remembered his childhood, and the promises he made to himself and his friends. With the little strength he had left, Earth found the drive to rise from the ground, and voiced a new resolve. This time, he wouldn't let anyone deny his existence. The knights had already scattered across the city, searching for Earth. A man who seemed to be the captain asked if anyone had found the boy yet, but there was still no trace. An old man approached the night squad and asked what was causing all the commotion in the city. The knight captain explained to him what had happened during the Great Battle, the biggest event since the war ended. Meanwhile, Mamu frantically ran around the house, entering each room with short breaths until she finally stopped in front of Earth's room. She sighed, knowing that her faint hope of finding Earth in one of the rooms wouldn't come true. Since evidence of the Demon King had surfaced, the entire night squad, including Hera, had gone out searching for information about Earth, but to no avail. Mamu almost wished they wouldn't find him, because it would surely lead to a battle, making things beyond repair. She recalled the words the boy had said to his father, and wondered what had happened to Earth all this time, that led him to use the Demon King's technique and clash with his parents. The woman realized this was the first time she truly looked closely at Earth's room, and noticed all the books he had, the materials she and Hero never possessed. Earth had put in so much effort, only to be criticized and crushed by the overwhelming expectations, while neither his father nor mother focused on his efforts, but only on the standards of the 7 heroes. Mamu collapsed to her knees, finally realizing all the mistakes she had made. She whispered a quiet apology to Earth for not being there during his struggles, and for pushing all the responsibility of caring for him onto Sadith. Suddenly, a voice called out from outside the room, and Mamu hurried out, realizing Sadith was home, instead of at the hospital where she should have been. Sadith explained that the nurses at the hospital were gossiping about Earth, and the crimes they believed he had committed, making her want to leave as soon as possible. Sadith was pulled into a hug, and Mamu told her everything would be okay. However, Sadith continued to share what she had heard. While searching through town, people everywhere were saying Earth had cheated in the tournament and suddenly gained strength by using forbidden magic. But Sadith insisted they were wrong, because she had always been by Earth's side, and witnessed him train on his own to gain his true strength. Mamu looked at the girl with a sorrowful expression, realizing that Sadith understood Earth better than even his own mother. Though Mamu knew it was too late to mend her relationship with Earth, she still wanted to see him again, and begged Sadith for help in doing so. Meanwhile, fiancé, Fu, and rival walked through the hallway, with determined faces, both thinking the same thing. They wanted Earth to give them another chance. The boy himself asked Trainer how long it had been since they started this journey, and the Demon King explained it had been about 3 hours since they began walking. The Demon King told Earth to stop complaining, as finding a city in the middle of this forest wouldn't be easy, meaning they'd have to camp overnight. Earth recalled his luxurious life in the grand mansion, where he always had a soft bed and delicious meals prepared by Sadith. Meanwhile, Trainer looked at him with disdain for those thoughts. They continued walking, and Earth asked the Demon King if he knew how to set up camp, to which Trainer proudly confirmed he did. Suddenly, Earth's stomach growled, making him realize they needed to prioritize finding food. He spotted a rabbit in the distance, and immediately dashed toward it with excitement. Earth tried several times to catch the rabbit, but it kept dodging, leaving him exhausted. Trainer explained that Earth was at a disadvantage trying to catch it, as he didn't yet have the skills necessary for hunting. The small creature, being familiar with its environment, had put Earth at a disadvantage. The rabbit suddenly interrupted the lesson and flashed a mocking smile at the frustrated boy. The Demon King decided to offer a few tips to Earth, helping him catch that little rabbit. After the lesson, Earth regained his strength. To try hunting again, he needed to grasp the terrain and figure out the most efficient path, along with the quickest way to catch up to the rabbit, relying on signals from the Demon King about when and where to run, and leap toward the small creature. Finally, Earth caught the rabbit and shouted in triumph, until Trainer told him he had to gut it. This shocked Earth, as it was necessary if they wanted to eat the meat, but Earth felt conflicted about the idea. Suddenly, 2 other rabbits peeked out from the bushes, looking at the third rabbit in Earth's hands with sad eyes. The boy found himself in a tough spot, feeling guilty, and decided to let the rabbit go, which led to the Demon King scolding him for letting the only food they had slip away in that moment. However, their one-sided argument was quickly interrupted by a distant roar echoing through the forest. Heavy footsteps shook the ground, drawing closer and closer. Earth stood frozen, sweat pouring down from anxiety, as a strange figure emerged before them. The glowing eyes of the creature pierced through them, while Earth was left with chaotic thoughts, unsure of what kind of monster was approaching. The towering beast loomed over them, far larger than both Earth and Trainer. The Demon King told Earth that this creature was a tribal ogre. Tribal ogres are monsters of immense strength and great power, infamous for killing many people, due to their violent temper. Earth remembered childhood stories, where he was told that if he wasn't well behaved, these monsters would eat him. But now he was facing an ogre head-on. Trainer warned Earth not to challenge the ogre, as they are among the most powerful of monsters. This made the boy nervous about his next move. The ogre looked down and asked if Earth was lost, making the boy hesitate, and shout for the monster to stay away. Suddenly, the ogre's attitude changed as it tried to reassure Earth that it had no intention of fighting or causing harm. Earth thought it might be a trap, but Trainer knew ogres weren't intelligent enough to lie in such a clever way. Unexpectedly, the monster asked if the boy wanted to come to its home and have a meal. This made Earth recoil in fear and confusion, haunted by the horror stories he had heard as a child. Trainer, with an annoyed expression, interrupted Earth and told him to calm down and listen to the ogre, as it had no intention to kill. Besides, this might be their only chance to find food. Earth tried to argue with the Demon King until the ogre bowed its head sadly, explaining that it understood humans' fear, and apologized for being too blunt. Earth's eyes widened in surprise as he realized he had made a mistake by letting prejudice take over, something he himself had experienced when others judged him for using the Demon King's technique. The ogre turned and began walking in the direction to show Earth where the nearest city was. Suddenly, Earth shouted an apology, explaining that he had been cautious, because he had never met an ogre before. At that moment, his stomach growled loudly, making Earth embarrassed, while the ogre let out a hearty laugh. The boy started following the giant creature through the dense forest, and the two exchanged names along the way. Earth knew he should keep his last name hidden, as it might cause trouble, but his thoughts were interrupted when Acre, the ogre, called him kind, for not fearing him like the other humans he had met. Finally, they arrived at Aka's cabin, and Earth looked around, noticing the campfire and the neatly arranged living room. AKA quickly began preparing a meal, while the boy was invited to sit anywhere he liked until the food was ready. Earth was surprised by the difference between the cabin's interior and any structure he had seen in the Empire. Trainer explained that this type of architecture wasn't exclusive to ogres, and this house was likely built by Akka himself. The delicious aroma filled the air, as Akka walked back into the room, cheerfully announcing that the meal was ready. He placed bowls and plates of meat on the table, while Earth stared in awe at how appetizing the food looked. Akka handed the bewildered boy a fork, and Earth immediately began eating, completely surprised by how delicious the food tasted, just as good as it looked. The boy started crying from happiness, as everything seemed to be more perfect than ever. The ogre noticed Earth's expression, saw the tears and misunderstood his reaction, worried that the food wasn't good. Earth realized he couldn't speak with his mouth full, so he flashed a V sign to reassure Akka, waiting until he swallowed before admitting that the food was amazing. The boy explained why he had cried, leaving out some details but telling the truth about how he had run away from home and felt incapable of taking care of himself. Earth said that while eating Akka's food, he felt warm and comfortable, but he couldn't go back anymore. All he could do was move forward. Earth thanked the ogre, and Akka responded by flashing a peace sign. As a gesture of gratitude, Akka admitted that despite being an ogre, he hated fighting, and had lived in the forest for over 10 years to avoid scaring humans. AKA called Earth a good person, but Earth thought it was Akka who was truly kind. He felt a sense of empathy for the giant creature. Akka then asked Earth if he could teach him about humans, hoping it might help him make friends with the boy. Earth looked down at the ground with a somber expression for a moment and asked what the ogre was talking about, then looked up with a smile and said they were already friends. Tears of joy started to fall down Akka's face, and Earth's eyes also began to water, remembering the feeling of isolation he had in the Empire, when he never had a friend to talk to, as an equal. The next day, as the sun rose, it was time for Earth to leave. AKA pointed him in the direction of the nearest city. The boy thanked the ogre for everything, and asked if there was anything he wanted. When Earth reached the town, the ogre admitted that he had always wanted to try a human-made cake after hearing so much about its sweetness and deliciousness. Just before Earth left, Acre gave him a handmade charm from his homeland, wishing for the boy's journey to be safer. Earth was deeply impressed by the craftsmanship of the gift. Then the two parted ways and Earth set off. The boy ran through the forest, seemingly training himself in his own way, without needing Trainer's guidance. Earth explained to the Demon King that he wanted to remember how he had chased after the rabbit the day before. Earth explained to the Demon King that he wanted to remember how he had chased after the rabbit the day before, and come up with his own plan of action. Earth believed he could gather a gift for Akka and the necessary gear for himself before the day was over. Or at least, that was the initial plan. Until Trainer asked if the boy had any money, Earth hadn't realized his problem. When they reached the city, Earth tried to register as a hunter, but was immediately rejected because he hadn't graduated from the academy, and didn't even have an ID card. The boy continued to plead, but the man at the counter explained that the required documents were mandatory, so the guild could send the member's identity to the government. Earth knew he couldn't reveal his real identity, because if he did, the knights and his father would immediately come after him. A man behind him interrupted Earth's thoughts, telling the boy to move aside because he was holding up the line. Earth left the guild, walking down the street with a sigh. Trying to figure out another way to earn money, Trainer began complaining about how humans operated, saying that skills should matter more than legality. From a distance, Earth heard a commotion and saw a crowd cheering. He weaved through the crowd and realized that two people were playing a game of Go, a game using black and white stones to expand territory. The Demon King proudly declared that he had over 1,000 years of experience with the game. At that moment, a man in the crowd asked if anyone wanted to challenge the Japanese player, Shinobu Stork. The host announced that the winner would receive 100,000 Sabura, but the girl quickly declined, saying she had already made enough money. Unexpectedly, Shinobu added that being too beautiful made her life difficult. The crowd, including Trainer and Earth, stared at her in disbelief, unable to comprehend her arrogance. Shinobu told the host it was time to leave, but Trainer commanded Earth to enter the game. Earth tried to explain that he knew nothing about the game, but the Demon King grinned wickedly, saying he didn't need to, implying they would cheat. Suddenly, Earth shouted that he would be the next player. The crowd looked at the boy in astonishment, murmuring about his bravery. Shinobu remarked that Earth didn't look capable, and she wasn't wrong. The game began, and Trainer stood behind Earth with a wicked grin, guiding him on the first move. Shinobu stared at the board, her hand hesitating, over the stones, until her face revealed sheer terror and despair. Earth wondered what was happening, while Trainer reveled in the girl's fear as she struggled to find a move that wouldn't lead to defeat. But all her efforts were in vain, as just one move later, Shinobu felt her defenses crumble. Within seconds of the game starting, she decided to forfeit without making a single move, bowing her head in frustration while the crowd cheered in admiration. Earth received the promised prize money, but before he could leave, Shinobu grabbed his hand and demanded a rematch. She admitted that it had been a long time since someone her age made her lose a match, her face turning red as she said it. Trainer had no objections to playing another round, since he was having fun and wanted to win again. But Earth didn't want to spend another second with this girl. Suddenly, Shinobu suggested joining him, gripping Earth's hand with a desperate look, saying he had the chance to hang out with a cute girl. Out of nowhere, something flew out from her chest and fell to the ground, causing Shinobu to break into a sweat as Earth stared in confusion. She quickly ran over to pick it up and put it back in place, smiling at Earth, before dashing away. Earth continued on to a bakery, ready to find a gift for Akka. Not knowing which to choose, he decided to ask the clerk for one of each kind. However, Trainer reminded him that he couldn't spend all his money so quickly. The woman at the counter explained that it would take some time to pack everything. Earth decided to sit down and enjoy some cake and tea while he waited. As he sat, everything seemed peaceful, but his mind was still spinning from the strange encounter with Shinobu. Earth decided to talk to Trainer and asked if the Demon King ever felt hungry after death. Trainer thought for a moment and admitted that he had never felt hunger or seen anything that looked appetizing, which surprised Earth. The boy quickly ordered another round of tea and cake, causing the Demon King to raise an eyebrow. Earth explained that he wanted Trainer to see it as a thank you. Trainer smiled and accepted, but their moment was quickly interrupted when a woman in the cafe looked out the window and saw smoke rising from the mountains. Earth rushed outside, hearing others talk about Japanese hunters tracking down a tribe of monsters in the mountains. Fear flooded Earth's heart. The woman preparing the cakes came in to tell Earth that all the pastries were packed, but by then the boy had disappeared. Earth ran through the forest, gasping for breath, leaping over logs and rocks as his mind raced with worry. He wondered if the people in the city were talking about Akka. Trainer chimed in, reminding him that Akka had once said humans always feared him at first sight. The Demon King explained that if someone had seen Akka, It was likely that news of an ogre's appearance had spread, leading to hunters being sent because of the deep fear humans have for ogres. Earth said they needed to act quickly, or the hunters would find Akka and kill him. Trainer tried to say something about ogres to the boy, but suddenly a strange man in a cloak appeared, asking what Earth was doing alone in the forest, mentioning a dangerous ogre. The Demon King warned Earth that he was surrounded and shouldn't be naive enough to believe the lies the man in front of him was telling. Earth asked the man what the hunters had done to the ogre. The hooded man replied that they had killed it and would destroy any other monsters that appeared, then began explaining what would happen if those monsters were left unchecked. He recounted how, in the past, the Demon King's army had used hundreds of thousands of demons and monsters, with ogres causing the most destruction to humanity on the front lines. After the Demon King was defeated, the remnants of that army fled and hid across the world. But they still sharpened their claws, ready to annihilate humanity as they did during the war. Earth listened to the entire story, but he still felt it was wrong, because Akka was nothing like what the man described. Earth shouted, demanding that the hunter listen, and confessed that the ogre had helped him and was truly a kind being. The hooded man mocked Earth, calling his words absurd, which made the boy lunge forward and strike at his wrist, shouting that he was committing murder. But just then the man turned into smoke, leaving Earth confused until he was hit from behind. A girl landed on the ground, asking him what he was doing. It was Shinobu, the same girl Earth had beaten earlier in the game. More hunters stepped out from hiding and asked Shinobu if she knew the boy. She replied that they had met before in the city. They were about to leave, assuming Earth was knocked out from the blow, but he immediately got back up, ready to fight again. If he hadn't turned at that moment, he might have been unconscious for real. Shinobu didn't want to fight the boy, but Earth declared that he would get through as many hunters as it took if it meant protecting Akka. The hunter Earth had spoken to earlier felt the need to be the first to face him in battle. Earth drew 2 swords and used a Japanese sword technique, flowing run, while Trainer watched from afar. The Demon King noticed the precision and subtle movements of the hunters, leaving almost no trace. But that was nothing to Earth. The boy turned around without a hint of worry, raising his fist and knocking the hunter away. Shinobu and the man next to her were stunned at how easily their comrade was defeated. Earth confidently said he could do it too, and immediately performed a similar technique. But it wasn't a move from Japan. It was a technique trained by Trainer himself. This move was perfect for deceiving the enemy. Earth dashed towards Shinobu, but the man beside her jumped out to protect her. Earth swiftly dodged the attack and executed a feint, coming just inches away from touching the older man. The old hunter wondered who this boy was, realizing that Earth had immense power within him despite his young age. Trainer, watching from a distance, noticed the confusion in the minds of the Japanese hunters as they witnessed Earth's calm demeanor in battle. The old man jumped around, putting his hands together and beginning to chant, intending to use his full strength in the battle. This confused Earth, and the Demon King explained that there were 2 traditional powers in Japan. One belonged to the samurai, and the other to the ninja, those who fought in the shadows. The hunter was using ninja arts, and a whirlwind appeared out of nowhere. However, this didn't faze Earth. A glowing circle formed beneath his feet as he used his own magic, creating an earthen wall in front of him to block the wind attack. After deflecting the strike, Earth immediately punched the wall, shattering it into debris that flew toward the old hunter, creating a distraction. In that brief moment of distraction, Earth quickly closed the distance between them. He landed a straight punch to the old hunter's face, knocking him out within seconds. Trainer began bragging that these hunters were nothing compared to him, making Earth sweat in embarrassment at the Demon King's arrogance instead of receiving praise. Still, Trainer fully understood Earth's power, knowing that he had trained the boy into a high-ranking knight, and no ordinary warrior could stand a chance against Earth. However, there was something about Shinobu that made Trainer uneasy. The girl finally spoke, expressing her admiration that Earth could defeat 2 of her best hunters. She admitted that her excitement was rising, then looked up at Earth with a dark gaze. Both could feel the energy radiating from her, a strong killing intent filling the air as she continued to speak. Shinobu pulled out several knives, saying she had never lost a match, unless her opponent was her brother, who had been recognized by Kojudo. These words left Trainer shocked, realizing that Shinobu was no ordinary opponent. Trainer stared in surprise at Shinobu's words. As she stood across from Earth, a wicked smile on her face, Shinobu challenged Earth to step forward, ready for battle. She was a shinobi, a type of warrior who didn't appear on the front lines of war, but operated in the shadows to support Japan. When Shinobu was young, she always watched these great figures with admiration, eager to become one of them. She decided to become a shinobi and began studying at a ninjutsu school. Everyone around her was amazed by her exceptional talent and praised her, as she immediately achieved impressive feats. However, her passion quickly faded sooner than expected. When Shinobu realized that the effort she put into her studies didn't bring the value she had hoped for, she gradually believed she was smarter than her teacher, and his lessons seemed ineffective in her eyes. This made her sigh whenever she remembered how close she was to finishing her education at a place she considered far beneath her. Shinobu placed high hopes on the idea that once she left school and started working in the real world, things would be much better. However, reality didn't meet her expectations. A family had hired 3 shinobi and tasked them with protecting the eldest son of the Uge clan, named Retsu. The boy stood next to a man staring blankly ahead, holding books and picking his nose. The man beside the boy explained that the 3 ninjas would have to take on roles from the stories Retsu liked to read in order to entertain him. Shinobu looked on in disgust when she was asked to wear a costume that didn't suit her at all. One of the elders in the group finally spoke up, telling the man that they were shinobi, trained for warfare. But the man quickly cut him off, feeling insulted that they dared to object. The man mocked them, asking if they had any right to complain, since there might not be any more wars for shinobi to fight in, as the war with the Demon King was over, and the world was in a time of peace. All 3 members of the shinobi group were highly ranked ninjas, recognized by Kojiro, one of the 7 heroes. The man beside the boy said they should feel honored to serve this family due to their connection with Kojiro. According to the man, other shinobi, who only knew war, were seen as pathetic because they had to sell their skills for mere coins. This made Shinobu start to question what the goal she had been pursuing all this time really meant. Was the path she chose truly what she wanted, or was it just a futile road in a peaceful world? Over time in her work, Shinobu began to feel less and less interested in everything. She felt as if nothing could bring her joy anymore. All she did now was complete the tasks assigned to the 3 of them. At least that's what she thought. Until she met Earth. The 2 stood facing each other, preparing for the fight. Earth, ready to battle, noticed that Shinobu's mood suddenly shifted. At first, he hoped she would be the easiest opponent, not worth worrying about. But it seemed Earth had underestimated this girl. He glanced at Shinobu, sweat dripping, then turned away for a moment to remind himself not to rush into the fight. As soon as Earth opened his eyes again, he saw a knife flying toward his face at high speed. He quickly dodged, easily escaping the attack, which made Shinobu praise his quick reflexes. However, the girl didn't stop there, and began throwing more knives toward Earth, creating a relentless barrage. Earth ran as fast as he could, while Trainer warned that his physical techniques would be at a disadvantage, advising him to approach Shinobu carefully and bring the fight into close combat. Suddenly, a log dropped from a tree and flew past him, barely missing. The Demon King immediately recognized it as a trap, and Earth realized as well that fighting the 2 other shinobi had just been a decoy to ensure Shinobu's victory. He kept running through the forest, with knives and logs constantly aimed at him. After a while, Shinobu decided to use a special technique, making it difficult for Earth to see anything clearly. Within seconds, a thick fog blanketed the forest, causing the girl to vanish from sight. Trainer smirked at Shinobu's move, admitting she was quite skilled to pull off such a technique. He was about to reveal Shinobu's possible location to Earth, when suddenly multiple knives flew from all directions, piercing into Earth's back before he could react. Earth ripped the knives from his back, cursing in anger, then summoned lightning magic, hurling it in the direction the knives had come from. But unfortunately, the attack missed its target. The Demon King explained that shinobi were always on the move, making it nearly impossible to hit them with random attacks, as it would only waste magic and energy. Earth shouted for Shinobu to fight fairly. Trainer realized that up until now, the boy had been fairly lucky, as previous enemies either underestimated Earth or were mere stand-ins for the real fight. In this situation, there were no clear rules, because in this world, survival is justice. The Demon King noticed Earth might be reaching his limit and decided it was time to assist him. As Earth continued running through the forest, trying to find a way to counterattack, he knew he needed to dispel the fog obscuring his vision. On the other side, Shinobu kept running, watching Earth, wondering if the boy had more stamina than most people. However, she still believed she would win in the end. Shinobu remained confident, sensing that despite Earth's strength, the battle was tipping in her favor. Earth wasn't someone who would give up easily, while Shinobu, frustrated that he hadn't reignited her passion for battle, stopped and decided to end it all. She placed her hands together to perform a ninja technique, sending shards of stone hurtling toward Earth. But the boy refused to back down. Earth raised his fist to the sky and used the great demon spiral technique, unleashing a massive force that blew everything around him away, including trees and the fog. In just a few seconds, it seemed like the entire forest had vanished, leaving Shinobu standing alone in an open space. She frantically turned around, trying to find cover, but Earth had already charged forward, his fist flying toward her face. In that moment, Shinobu realized she no longer had any chance of winning. Her heart raced, and the passion for battle within her ignited fiercely, ready to face death. But then Earth stopped, just a few centimeters from her face, and said the fight was over. He turned his back and walked away, while Shinobu shouted, telling him not to joke around, asking if she wasn't worthy of being finished off. However, Earth replied that he didn't kill her because it would be a waste of her pretty face, making Shinobu blush fiercely. Trainer asked Earth if he had ever hit a woman before, but the boy didn't respond, just kept walking, while they left the blushing girl behind. As Earth ran through the forest, he realized someone was following him. It was Shinobu, who continued running after him, bombarding him with hundreds of questions about himself, as if conducting an interview. Earth wasn't thrilled with the idea, sweat dripping as he wondered why she was chasing him. Shinobu didn't answer Earth's question, but instead began to introduce herself in more detail. Then suddenly started talking about the type of person she liked, admitting that person was Earth. Trainer was surprised, remarking that Shinobu was beyond his understanding, and wondered what had caused her to change her mind so quickly. Earth had no clue either, despite being human. He still didn't know how to feel about Shinobu. At first, this girl had wanted to seriously harm him and was determined to eliminate Aka, but now she was acting completely differently in such a short time. Shinobu's boundless energy and sudden change in attitude nearly frightened Earth. She seemed almost unhinged, and Earth worried about what might happen if she suddenly caught up with him. Shinobu told Earth that another reason she was chasing him was that she wanted to help him face her brother, who was just ahead. He was said to be far stronger than Shinobu and a genius recognized by Kojito, one of the 7 heroes. Even Earth wouldn't be able to defeat him. Hearing mention of a genius and the 7 heroes, Earth gritted his teeth, remembering the people he had tried to escape from. However, he quickly pushed those thoughts aside and kept moving forward. Light began to filter through the trees as they realized they were nearing the edge of the forest. But the sight before them left them stunned. The place that had once been Aka's home was now nothing but ash and roaring flames. Trainer sighed, knowing this situation was very likely to happen. As humans could never truly defeat an ogre, Earth stared in horror as the flames continued to consume the area around the ashes, unable to believe that this had happened to the friend he cherished. Aka stood tall where his home once was, his face darkened, standing over a man lying on the ground. Shinobu called out loudly to her brother, while Earth, in his confusion, called out to Aka, his friend. Aka turned toward Earth and suddenly hurled a log at him, narrowly missing. Earth stood frozen, shocked and bewildered, not understanding why Aka was acting this way. He was horrified to realize that Aka, his close friend, was now turning violent against him. But to Aka, Earth was just another human, one more enemy out to harm him. Aka's furious and terrified roar echoed, freezing Earth with terror. Trainer explained that when an ogre goes into a rage, they lose all control. This meant Aka had completely lost control, after his home was burned down by Shinobu's brother, unleashing his full fury. The Demon King also warned that, in his current state, Aka couldn't recognize Earth as his friend. Earth tried to remind himself of the good memories with Aka, of how the ogre only wanted to live peacefully with humans. But now everything had shattered. Aka could only feel the pain and fury surging through his body as he roared ferociously, the sound echoing through the air. Earth was overwhelmed with fear, his eyes wide, heart pounding, and body trembling as if a heavy weight pressed down on his stomach. His vision blurred, and his limbs felt like they were turning to stone. Even so, Earth tried to remind himself that Aka was his friend, but the unbearable fear paralyzed him, preventing him from taking even a single step forward. If Earth approached Aka now, he would be killed instantly. He stared at Shinobu's brother, lying motionless at Aka's feet, either dead or unconscious. Trainer could clearly see that Earth was being consumed by fear. As he watched Aka's rage directed toward Shinobu's brother, the one who caused all this. However, the Demon King knew that these emotions would cloud Earth's judgment. He was curious to see what Earth would do in this situation, knowing the boy hated discrimination against demons, and wanted to observe how he would react when faced with a nightmare that couldn't be reasoned with. Aka's claws had grown longer as he continued to roar, suffering over what had happened to his home and farm. Aka cried out, pleading for everything to return to the peace it once was, only wanting to live in harmony. Shinobu's brother, after regaining consciousness, smirked with disdain and asked how an ogre, a creature of destruction, could talk about peace, when all they had ever done was kill innocent people. He called Aka vermin, and that was all it took to push Aka into a state of absolute fury. Trainer warned Earth that words were now useless, as Aka could no longer hear anything. Aka roared even louder and charged forward, throwing a punch at Shinobu's brother in a fit of rage. Shinobu screamed in fear for her brother. Suddenly, Earth leapt into action, shocking Trainer. The boy sprinted forward and delivered a powerful kick to Aka's arm, deflecting the punch before it could land on Shinobu's brother. Everyone stood frozen in disbelief, stunned as Earth stood in front of the fallen man, shielding him from Aka's wrath. Earth finally spoke, telling Shinobu's brother that he would never forgive him for what he did to Aka. He commanded him and Shinobu to leave his sight immediately. Shinobu, panicked, rushed to her brother's side, helping him up and pulling him away from the scene to avoid further harm. Aka stood towering, his eyes blazing with fury, while Earth looked up at him with pity. Earth told Aka that sometimes humans are cruel, and explained that they only hurt things out of fear, even when they understand the situation around them. He admitted that he was no different from other humans, because he too felt fear coursing through his body, even though he had experienced the same prejudice and hatred that Aka was now facing. Shinobu shouted, telling Earth not to do anything stupid, and to run, because no human could stand against an ogre. But Earth snapped at her to be quiet, saying that she, her brother, and the other shinobi were the ones who caused all of this. Earth directed his words at Aka, declaring that he wouldn't let Aka become a murderer. He demanded that his friend release all his anger and sorrow onto him. For a moment, Aka swung a massive punch toward Earth. The one-sided battle between Earth and Aka began, while Shinobu and her brother watched from afar in confusion. Shinobu's brother wondered what the boy was talking about when he claimed to be friends with an ogre, and even Shinobu had no answer. She knew she should pull Earth out of there and flee from Aka. But the truth was that she and the other shinobi had caused this situation. Earth continued dodging every attack from Aka, while the trees in the forest were torn apart by his overwhelming strength. The boy understood that if he were hit even once, he would die instantly. Earth noticed that Aka's attacks were becoming more aggressive, and Trainer suggested that it was because Aka was growing frustrated with Earth's constant dodging. The Demon King knew things would only get worse, but Earth didn't want to hurt his friend. Trainer reminded him that he had vowed to bear Aka's anger and sorrow, to save him from drowning in pain and despair. Earth hid behind a tree, and the Demon King told him that the answer to this situation lay in the heart, not in victory or defeat. As long as Earth's emotions could reach Aka, things might change. Earth realized what he needed to do, his eyes widening in understanding. Shinobu was shocked as he stepped out from his hiding spot, and she screamed, asking what he was doing. Earth stood firm in front of Aka, looking straight up at him with determination in his eyes. Aka swung his massive fist toward Earth's head, but the boy didn't back down and took the punch head-on with his forehead. Earth shouted that he wouldn't run away, using magic to minimize the impact of the blow. Shinobu watched in disbelief, wondering if Aka could feel pain. Aka growled and made unintelligible sounds, while Trainer observed with a hint of worry. He knew the forehead was the hardest part of the human body, and using breakthrough to enhance its strength could help Earth withstand an ogre's punch. However, Earth felt blood dripping from his forehead as he struggled to stand, his head feeling like it was about to split open. Despite the pain, Earth hoped that by doing this, he could help Aka release his rage and bring back his true self. Trainer understood the danger of the situation, knowing that if Aka's punch had been even slightly off target, Earth's head would have been completely crushed. The key now was quick vision, sharp reflexes, and a strong heart capable of resisting the temptation of fear. Aka delivered another punch to Earth's head, and once again the boy took it, shouting that he was sorry for everything that had happened to Aka. He apologized, saying that Aka had worked so hard to build his home and grow a farm, only for everything to be destroyed in an instant. Earth's sincere words echoed through the air, hoping to reach Aka's wounded heart. Earth felt guilty, realizing that after all the food Aka had given him and the help he'd provided, he still hadn't returned with the cake he'd promised as a thank you. This made him realize that the relationship between humans and ogres had never truly changed. Another punch came down, But Earth still stood firm, continuing to speak about how anyone would be furious if their most precious things were destroyed, with the only difference being that Akka was just a little stronger than humans. Aka's rage persisted, while Shinobu watched in concern, wondering why Earth was risking his life for this, knowing that the ogre might stop if they just left it alone. Traynor smirked, realizing that Shinobu and her brother didn't understand the fear Earth had endured, the pain of rejection from those closest to him. Earth deeply understood those feelings, and that's why he felt the need to reach out and help, especially to those who had suffered as he had. The Demon King laughed loudly, mocking the pettiness of humans, who were so quick to discard someone like Earth, despite his strong, compassionate heart. Even in pain, Earth continued trying to reach Akka's wounded heart, hoping that his sincerity could calm his friend's anger and sorrow. After a long fight, Akka grew weary, trapped in darkness, drowning in his emotions. His body slowly weakened, but he couldn't stop remembering the pain of his home, belongings, and fields being destroyed after all his hard work. He had nowhere left to return to. Akka was too exhausted to think anymore, but his thoughts were interrupted by a faint voice calling his name. He opened his eyes, realizing he had returned to reality, when he saw Earth tapping lightly on his forehead. Akka looked down at the boy in confusion, unsure of what was happening, until Earth collapsed to the ground from exhaustion. Akka panicked, realizing how badly hurt the boy was, and that he himself had caused this. But before Akka could say anything, Earth flashed a peace sign and smiled brightly, saying he would do anything for a friend. Tears welled up in Akka's eyes, and he asked why Earth had done that for him. Someone he had just met yesterday, and an ogre at that. Earth thought for a moment and recalled his past, when people only saw him as the son of a hero, without recognizing his true self. Then he remembered the moment Akka had seen him for who he really was, and praised him not for his father, but for being himself. That moment alone was enough for Earth to be willing to do anything for a friend, even though they hadn't known each other for long. Ogres were always known for their massive, destructive power, capable of killing any human who stood in their way. But Akka was different. Though he had the same strength, Akka hated having to use it. When Earth passed out, the sky had already darkened, and something was cooking. The boy woke up, feeling groggy and unsure of what was happening. He sat up, seeing Akka cooking by a self-made fire. Akka noticed Earth was awake and greeted him, but Earth immediately collapsed back from exhaustion. Traynor, watching from afar, observed silently as Akka worriedly called out his friend's name. Earth complained that his head felt like it was going to explode. He gazed up at the sky for a moment, trying to recover from the sudden headache, then slowly sat up and asked Akka if he was the one who had bandaged him. Akka admitted that it wasn't him who had done the bandaging, but the girl who had been with Earth, Shinobu. Earth was surprised to hear this from Akka. Akka explained that he didn't trust those who had burned his home, but right after Earth collapsed, after helping bring Akka back to reality, Shinobu bowed deeply, her face nearly touching the ground, and begged to help Earth and bandage him because he was very important to her, even though she knew this wasn't something she had the right to ask of Akka. Akka felt he couldn't refuse such a desperate request, and Earth just sweated, turning his face away in discomfort as Akka asked if Shinobu was his friend. Akka continued, saying that the two hunters had also helped a lot, bandaging Earth and even tending to Akka's wounds. While the boy was unconscious, Akka handed Earth a notebook left by Shinobu for him. Earth held the notebook in his hands, looking at it in confusion, wondering if it was some sort of exchange journal. But when he opened it, he realized it was a letter from Shinobu. The letter began with Shinobu explaining that she had heard Earth's name, but she didn't want to mention it in the letter, because she wanted to hear him introduce himself directly. She went on to describe how she had witnessed the battle between Earth and Akka, and how bravely he had faced the wrath of an ogre. Earth was surprised as he read the letter from Shinobu, where she admitted that although she had met many warriors in her life, none were like Earth. No one had ever dared to face a raging ogre without backing down, even though Earth knew from the start how terrified he was. Yet, he never gave up on Akka, no matter the danger he faced. Shinobu recalled the battle and realized that, even between humans and demons, friendship could still bloom. When the fight ended, and Akka shed tears in front of the human boy, Shinobu also wept. She felt ashamed of her own shallowness and regretted destroying Akka's home just for the sake of a reward. Earth stared at the letter in surprise, realizing it was an apology from Shinobu. However, his thoughts were interrupted when Akka spoke, explaining that Shinobu's brother, the leader of the shinobi group, had also apologized to him. He promised to invest time, effort, and money to rebuild Aka's destroyed home and fields, doing everything he could to make amends. But Aka refused the offer, saying he no longer wanted anything to do with the shinobi. He had asked them to leave the mountain and never return. Earth looked at his friend with sympathetic eyes, understanding that no apology could heal the emotional scars Aka had endured. What Aka had gone through wouldn't be easy to overcome. The boy flipped to the next page in the notebook, only to feel uncomfortable and confused by the next part of the message. Shinobu wrote that Earth had stolen her heart and that she wanted to be with him as soon as possible. She had also prepared a long list of questions for Earth to answer about himself, with far too many personal, even strange inquiries. This horrified Earth, and he quickly slammed the notebook shut, while Traynor looked on with an equally displeased expression. AK, curious, asked what was going on, but Earth awkwardly turned away, unwilling to explain. The crackling of the fire continued as the two ate in silence. Finally, Earth decided to break the quiet, asking Aka what he planned to do now that his home and farm had been destroyed. Aka looked down sadly, his face shadowed by the darkness, and explained that he thought he should leave the forest after this terrible incident. He feared that the townspeople at the base of the mountain now knew about the presence of an ogre, and one day more hunters would come to kill him. Earth sighed, realizing the situation had become dire, and after a moment of silence, he suddenly asked Aka if he wanted to join him on his journey. Aka was deeply moved by the offer, as Earth explained that he wanted to explore the world and one day achieve great things, thinking the journey would be much more exciting. With Aka by his side, Aka trembled, asking Earth if he was sure he wanted him to come along, and whether an ogre like him could truly follow Earth. Earth confirmed it, causing Aka to burst into tears, overwhelmed by the kindness Earth had shown him. That night the two continued talking, with Aka's heart filled with gratitude for Earth becoming his friend and saving him. The next morning, Earth slowly woke up as sunlight filtered through the forest canopy. He sat up, noticing the sun was high in the sky, and asked if it was morning. Traynor responded that it was actually already noon. Earth stretched, complaining that he had slept too long, and looked around in confusion when he didn't see Aka anywhere. He quickly noticed a piece of paper lying next to him. As Earth picked it up, he realized it was a letter from Aka. Traynor quietly turned away, while Earth began reading. AKA started by apologizing for what had happened, and explained that he couldn't join the boy on his journey. Earth's eyes widened in shock, reading the rest in confusion. In the letter, Aka confessed that he had once been a soldier in the Demon King's army during the war when he was younger. He didn't live in an ogre village but in a dark elf village with his family, until the war broke out, forcing everyone to join the military. Joining the army was the first time Aka had met ogres outside his own family, and he realized that most of them were bloodthirsty, eager to slaughter humans on the battlefield in any way possible. The horrifying actions of his fellow ogre soldiers had terrified Aka. The humans trying to kill him held a deep hatred for ogres, and Aka couldn't blame them, especially knowing his own parents had killed many humans as well. AK felt powerless, unable to stop the army or save the suffering humans, which led him to desert the army and become a traitor to the demon world. That's why he had been hiding on the surface all this time. Aka's letter ended with a farewell, as he didn't want Earth to bear the burden of his past. Aka had lived alone for 10 years, thinking that befriending a human to ease his loneliness would be simple. But most humans would never forgive ogres for their bloody history. This made Aka incredibly happy when Earth finally became his friend. In the letter, Aka tried to explain that he couldn't join Earth on his journey, because he feared he would only become a burden to the boy, his only friend. After finishing the letter, Earth sprinted into the forest, with Traynor quickly following behind. The Demon King asked where he was going, and Earth replied that he was chasing after Aka. However, Traynor said it was useless, since Aka had left before sunrise, and Earth wouldn't be able to catch up to him. Earth glared at Traynor in anger, asking why he hadn't said anything. The Demon King explained that he respected Aka's decision and had no right to interfere, as it all stemmed from the war. Earth collapsed to his knees, wondering why Aka felt that way. Traynor explained that perhaps Aka couldn't stop tormenting himself, always fearing that he would become a burden to Earth. Even so, Earth continued running through the forest, his desperation growing until he reached a cliff. He shouted Aka's name, hoping his call would somehow reach him. Though Aka was miles away, it seemed he heard Earth's voice. Aka turned back, raising a peace sign with a sad smile. Meanwhile, in the Empire, Fiancé was shouting at her father, the king, begging him to reconsider his actions toward Earth. She was deeply worried about how the entire city was treating the boy as if he were a criminal. The people across the Empire had no tolerance or openness toward Earth's situation. They wanted him imprisoned for life or even executed. Fiancé tried to explain that she didn't see the necessity of such extreme measures, but her father, the king, said there was nothing he could do against the overwhelming feelings of the people in the Empire. She continued to plead, but her father explained that she didn't understand the devastation caused by the Demon King's army. How many families, friends, lovers, and relatives had been killed by that army, leaving the survivors' lives completely shattered. Fiancé's father still vividly remembered the fear and anger as if it had happened only yesterday. Fiancé argued that Earth wasn't a member of the Demon King's army, and that he hadn't killed any innocent people. Her father sighed and explained that Earth seemed to have gone mad due to lingering effects from the brutal eras of the past, and that human emotions were not easily understood. Those words made Fiancé realize that she would never be able to convince her father. The king continued, saying that no one in the Empire would be satisfied with any lenient punishment for Earth. They wanted revenge for the past, regardless of Earth's innocence in those crimes. Though he had made his decision, Fiancé's father still looked saddened by the situation, because in his eyes, Earth was the son of his dear friends. That was why he had tried to protect him during the grand tournament. However, given the current situation, the king could no longer protect Earth, and advised his daughter to give up on defending him, leaving Fiancé trembling in disbelief. Outside the room, Fu and Rival were leaning against opposite walls. Fu asked the long-haired man if he remembered the days when their group used to play heroes as kids. Rival was confused by the sudden question until Fu explained that Earth had always been the one to lead them, a shining light for all of them. Earth always told them they would become heroes greater than their parents. Fu chuckled sadly at the memory, realizing that Earth's optimism had once been a powerful source of motivation for their entire group. At the present moment, things had changed. But back then, Earth was always full of energy and reliability. That made everyone in the group feel like they could achieve great things just by hearing his positive words. Fu asked Rival if he felt the same way, but Rival only scoffed, saying that they had moved past those days. Rival admitted that he once believed Earth would lead the group until the end, but now the gap in strength had become too wide, changing everything. The boy they once admired had been left behind, as Earth struggled, exhausting himself trying to catch up. Fu understood what had happened, but he was glad to see Earth had changed for the better, recalling their childhood, when the group was always together. However, things had shifted as everyone, including Fu, became more focused on themselves. This caused their conversations with Earth to fade, and none of their childhood friends truly understood the person Earth had become. Fiancé left the room with a dark, angry expression on her face. Fu had anticipated what had happened, and he was right when Fiancé explained that Earth's punishment would not change, that her father felt he couldn't quell the people's anger. Worry spread across Fu's face as he tried to guess what would happen to Earth if he was found. But before he could finish, Fiancé shouted, declaring that she wouldn't let that happen, with clear determination in her voice. Earth meant too much to her, and she was willing to do anything to protect him, even if the entire country turned against him. Fu was about to respond when suddenly a knight rushed over, informing the princess that someone urgently needed to see her. Meanwhile, Hero, Earth's father, was still haunted by the moment at the grand tournament. He kept replaying the emotional words his son had spoken to him, about the pain Earth had endured, and how he no longer wanted to be his son. Hero's thoughts were interrupted when someone called his name, pulling him back to reality. He stood in the middle of a forest with other knights, still searching for any trace of where Earth might have gone. The knight in front of him explained that the tunnel Earth had dug during his escape was blocked at one point, and no one knew where it led after that. This forced the knights to investigate every nearby city for more information, but so far they hadn't found any leads. Hero sighed and instructed the knights to continue the search, believing that Earth likely hadn't gone far due to the limited amount of magic he possessed. He suggested they keep searching on the surface. However, deep down, Hero knew he had made a mistake in underestimating his son. During the grand tournament, Earth had displayed skills that should have drained a normal person of their magic quickly, yet Earth still had enough power to escape. Even so, Hero continued to deny the truth, hoping that his son hadn't gone far. He quickly pushed aside that denial, realizing that he truly didn't know much about Earth, about his strength and abilities. There had been no deception in the martial arts Earth had used to defeat Rival. It had all come from his own capability. Yet Hero persisted in denying his son's growth. He sighed again, gripping his cloak tightly, gritting his teeth as he wondered why he hadn't listened to Earth sooner, to his struggles and ambitions. If only he had listened, perhaps he wouldn't have lost Earth. Hero's guilt-ridden thoughts were interrupted when a knight came rushing over, bringing urgent news from the capital. Hero initially thought it might be news about Earth, but the knight reported that fiancé, Fu, rival, and even Sadith had all gone missing from the Empire. Ahead, Mamu stood watching a group of cloaked figures, surprised by their numbers. Fiancé, rival, Fu, and Sadith were among them, their faces filled with determination, their bodies concealed under cloaks. Mamu tried to persuade fiancé, reminding her that she was the princess of the Empire and didn't need to join this group. However, fiancé quickly cut her off, explaining that she was more capable than any knight in the kingdom, and she wanted to meet Earth herself, not wait in the palace any longer. Mamu attempted to reason with her again, but this time Fu stepped in, saying that although they didn't fully understand how Earth felt, he was a dear friend to all of them. That's why they all had to go together. Fu glanced at Rival for confirmation, but Rival just smirked. Sadith, with a tired smile, said it seemed like everyone shared the same thoughts. They were determined to find Earth, not just out of duty, but because of the deep friendship they shared with him. They all had the same longing to see Earth again, and to truly understand who he had become. Mamu placed her hand on her chest and said that this time she wouldn't make the same mistake. Mamu agreed, and boldly raised her hand, declaring to everyone present in the alley, asking if they were ready. She then warned them that they were heading outside the capital, and she couldn't guarantee everyone's safety. Mamu asked one last time if they were prepared for the journey, and all of them agreed, determined to move forward. After Earth calmed down, he dressed and started walking in a specific direction, without saying a word, leaving Traynor confused. They continued walking in silence through the forest, until the Demon King began to tell a story from the past. Long ago, Earth's father and 7 other heroes once dreamed of a world where humans and demons could be equals with no racial boundaries. However, the differences in culture and values were inevitable, leading to conflicts between species. Earth gritted his teeth and asked the Demon King if that meant everything he had done was pointless. But Traynor firmly disagreed. He explained that Earth's actions had saved Aka and granted him his one true wish, to have a friend. That had given Aka an immense emotional strength. Even so, Earth remained sad and tried to argue that his brief friendship with Aka hadn't changed anything. The Demon King agreed, but then urged Earth to continue his journey, not just for Aka, but for himself as well. Traynor told Earth to remember what had happened with Aka, and to keep growing stronger, as long as he still had time to grieve and reflect on his emotions throughout the journey. He reminded Earth that he would have the chance to find clues to answer the questions that even his hero never solved. Traynor's words resonated deeply within Earth, causing him to stand tall, realizing what he needed to do next. Even if for now, Earth could only achieve small victories, his experiences and passion were undeniable truths. This world was about to undergo a significant change, and the story of Earth's growth was far from over, still unwritten.